Hello, dear community, and very welcome to the first RBI Open API Day 2020. Open banking from compliance to embedded finance. A lot of very, very good content, a lot of very good speakers. Super important topic, and I'm very excited that I'm allowed, so to say, to moderate this panel for you. Daniel Vicevic is my name, and I'm a founder of a startup and innovation media company from Austria. I don't want to waste your time. I just want to jump into the program, and we have Hannes Zizek with us, head of group strategy of Raiffeisen Bank International. Hannes, welcome on board.
Thank you, Dejan, also for the nice introduction, and thanks also for having me today. For me, it's today a very special day after 3 weeks of lockdown in Austria. I'm for the first day back in my office, so it's for me an exciting day. But I mean, to the topic, RBI Group gave itself a vision for 2025. Namely, to become the most recommended financial service group in the region and in the geographies we are serving our customers. And this is a quite ambitious goal. And alongside with many other innovation initiatives that we kicked off over the last 5 to 7 years, like some of you might know, like Elevator Lab, our fintech partnership program, which is in the meantime the largest program in Central and Eastern Europe. Open API is a crucial part for this strategy, and therefore very much in the center of our attention as well. This is why I'm happy to welcome you to our second Open API event. As Dejan said, open banking from compliance to embedded finance. We believe it was quite a ride in the last years in the financial industry overall, but in specific for the topic of Open API. And it's now just at the end of this year and a good point in time to discuss achievements of the last years and to reflect also a little bit on market development and the time ahead of us. The RBI team has put together 2 interesting panel discussions for today, where I believe you can gain important insights into our Open API journey, but as I said, also the market environment. I invite you and we invite you to stay with us and use this opportunity to ask questions and, of course, to comment and give your view and your feedback on the topics discussed. We like anybody else, we can't predict, of course, the future, but we are quite certain that customer centricity, Open API, and the overall topic of connectivity will play an important role. And this is why I'm happy to welcome you today, and I wish you an inspiring discussions and a pleasant Open API day.
Hannes, thank you. Thank you. We have approximately 350 registered people and interested audience with us here, and I'm excited for this afternoon. We have 2 panels plus a third one, which will be conducted by your colleagues. So we will give some insights on the topic in the RBI. You guys are really building ecosystem around this topic, around the topic of blockchain, around the topic of collaboration and fintech cooperation. It's really exciting to see the development of the RBI in this field, and congratulations for all these efforts that you put into it. Thank you for being with us, Hannes. So let's move on to our first panel. Like Hannes said, we'll be discussing open banking Avengers, the superpowers of different market players. Quite an exciting title that our colleagues chose. And I'd like to welcome on stage our panel. Please unmute yourself and come join me. Peter Klein, CTO and CPO of Finlink. Thorsten Grünheit, lead product management and compliance at Deutsche Bank. Gabriele Incirilo, fintech director of Plug and Play Europe. And Sudeep Khan, retail open banking leader at Raiffeisen Bank International. Come join on stage. It's great to have you here, and we'll deep dive into the first scope of topics, so to say, for our day, and we'll also be taking your questions from Hop-in, so feel free. I will be in a double role, so to say, to moderate the panel with my questions, but also take your questions and integrate them into the discussion. Let's start with an opening, let's say, general question. What do you guys think on the side of the incentives when it comes to the API? Would have open banking and finance develop without intervention as it is? Does it need to be pushed by regulation? What do you think? What was the boost for open API? Was it a regulation? Whoever wants to start.
I'll start.
Yes.
You're on? Okay. So first of all, just want to say, I don't think I can live up to such an exciting title. It's a crazy title. So already the pressure is on to perform. But your first question about regulation is quite interesting, because I think what we found in different jurisdictions across the world is that regulators are very, very interested in the topic of open banking and APIs and building out. However, they've all had very, very different strategies, right? Europe has seen a much more condensed and very, let's say, straightforward approach, with frameworks being built out and obligations being set forth. But then there's all swaths of the world where regulators, such as in Singapore, in Hong Kong, or in Australia, they've really gone down the more guidance approach. They've set out guidelines that banks can or cannot follow, up to them, in order to create a sort of a cohesive market. So which and where and what works best, I don't know yet. I don't think anyone knows yet.
Do you have any hints, any first impression? What do you think?
I think potentially, and please don't quote me on this, that it might be possible that a more organic way of doing it, with just guidelines set forth, will make for a stronger open banking ecosystem in the long run, because it's done, step by step, with a more distinct approach, with, people wanting to do it, as opposed to it being set out and forced and implemented. And then there can be different levels of how good it is implemented. Mm-hmm. But that's to be seen. I could be wrong. We're in such a new evolving area, right?
If I may kind of piggyback on what Gabrielle said over there, I fully agree with pretty much everything that she said. Different areas are going at it in different methods, different ways, and it's yet to be told which way is the best way to go. And possibly we'll see some sort of playbook kind of established or best practices established for future transformations that we see in other regions. But my gut feeling is that in Europe, we needed this regulatory push. We needed to get this kickstart of this transformation, because I don't think that the incumbent banks would have willingly just given up this data to other people. And we just have this natural mindset as being, traditional banks, to safeguard everything. So it's not within our normal modus operandi to just say, okay, now we're going to share our most coveted asset with other people. So yeah, in Europe, I think we definitely needed it.
But you think once pushed from the regulatory side to go into it, that you get excited for that you discover opportunities and start thinking business, or is it just something that you want to comply with on the regulatory side?
And that's a good question. I've been back in Europe for about 9 months now, and I'm noticing that the European banks are kind of hesitant to actually do anything other than be compliant. And I know I'm painting with a broad brush over here. This definitely doesn't go for everybody. Obviously, there are representatives even on this panel like Thorsten, who represents Deutsche Bank, which is going way ahead with partnering with Google and other partners as well. But in general, what I'm noticing is that there still is this whole mindset of, we just met the PSD2 compliance mandate, and then we stop right there, right?
Mm-hmm. And I can come in there too. So yeah, when we started in 2015, nobody talked about PSD2, and we had quite a hard time to discuss with our control functions why we want to open the bank and open the data. So it's quite German, I think, this discussion at the end. But now with PSD2, it helped to open up some, but many banks are still involved and have a lot to do to bring these regulatory APIs to working, and that everybody out there, the TPPs and everybody is happy with it and can use them properly, and that's what it also helped for, is getting standards out there that you don't have to connect to each of these banks, because there are more than 2,000 in Europe alone, and connecting each and every one and bringing your service live. I mean, always you are a fintech and you want to connect customer data, and you want to have the whole bunch of people out there in whole Europe, and then you have to nitty-gritty connect every bank, and every bank has a different standard. Therefore, I think, regulation helped. The problem there is more commercial perspective. The PSD2 things had to be for free. So you have to have a business case behind in the banks in the meantime to develop things and to go forward to really have a win-win-win situation where customer, we as a bank and the fintech profit from. So I think that's really the push that has to come now. And I see several, if you look at the panels that are there, more and more banks are going into it. And I think the business models are starting.
We'll talk about that, and I'd like to ask then Peter as well and Gabriel for their opinion. But just to have another question for you, Thorsten. Sudip said that you are quite advanced and pioneering this field with Deutsche Bank. What was the main driver for you guys? Was it the regulation? Were there some other incentives? No. Was it your business opportunity that you saw? Why are you pioneering this field?
I would really say it was the business opportunity, and at that time, not looking at banks out there, but for example, at Amazon. So Amazon was pioneer there, and at that time when we started at 2015, they already had several years of API first strategy, bringing up new business models, new things, and that's so having the business opportunity in mind is the primary goal there. And also process optimization with partners. So that's nowadays more the topic that drives us also to decrease cost by digitalizing and doing fluent processes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to add, Thorsten mentioned about the activities or the work that's being done at Deutsche, and they're obviously very far ahead with this respect. But I just wanted to talk about RBI for a second as well, because we're also doing things. And it's actually very exciting to be part of this organization right now because of all the transformation we're going through. We have a couple of network banks since we are kind of an amalgamation of multiple subsidiary institutions. And these network banks, a couple of these network banks rather, are publishing, actively publishing premium APIs, which you could actually find today on our marketplace. So we're very much in the beginning stage of understanding what these new business models will look like and how we can generate ROI. But I'd say we're just, we're getting our feet wet with this essentially, and we're heading on the right track.
Okay. Peter, what about you? You're a fintech. Maybe I skipped a long introduction on all of you guys, but maybe, Peter, can you just pitch FinLink first so that we have a good context of what you do? And then I will be asking about the business models and opportunities that you see as a fintech when banks open their APIs.
Yeah, very happy to. So yeah, thanks for the intro. At FinLink, we deliver apps that sit natively inside the corporate's existing workstation. So within their existing ERP systems, the SAP systems of the world. So our client base is really the Fortune 500, the Fortune 2000, and our apps consume the open banking APIs. Not only the open banking one, Sudip, you mentioned the premium APIs. So yeah, we're collaborating closely with RBI and consume those APIs and bringing that data into the corporate's existing workstation. And what's interesting is there's this point on the regulation, which Thorsten, you were mentioning. So a lot of our client base is actually US and Asia. And there, it hasn't been the regulators. The regulators haven't really been the push for adoption of the APIs. It's been more the customers. So the corporate customers, you think large corporates, they can be running, there could be 30, 40, 50 different bank partners. These corporate customers don't want to be logging on to all these different e-banking portals one by one, rather than looking for a simple app that sits where they already work today in their existing SAP system, for example, that consumes all these API data, all the APIs coming from Deutsche and RBI, and bringing that all into their native workstation. And yeah, it's really been the drive for the banks to bring that client experience to the home of the corporate. So yeah, it's not anymore waiting for your corporate customer to come to you as a bank. Rather, as a bank, you have to go to the corporate. And if you don't bring your experience to the corporate and where they sit, then another bank will. And so it hasn't really been regulation. And it'd be great to dig in a little bit more, Sudip, of how you see let's say the public APIs, the PSD2 ones versus your premium ones, which you offer. And also the same with at Deutsche. I mean, it's really interesting. There's a lot of different value propositions that the premium open banking APIs offer versus just the PSD2 or the public ones.
So, could you just explain the difference between the two mentioned now?
Sure. So the PSD2 ones are free, as Thorsten mentioned a moment ago. So it's mandated by regulation to essentially provide these to, for lack of a better word, certified parties. So other banks, other financial institutions, and fintechs. And then there's this other layer of APIs, which we're talking about here, which is the premium APIs, which essentially allow us as banks to monetize those relationships now. So we have different business models within the API world that allow us to charge for providing data to third parties or to other banks. And that's essentially what the premium APIs are. And what we're seeing right now in Tatra Banka, for example, which is one of our subsidiaries in Slovakia, is they have just published an API that allows invoice reconciliation with accounting software. So what that means is if you have an accounting software and you want to be able to reconcile your invoices, you basically just tap into the banking information and it reconciles it automatically for you. And through that process, what we can do as a bank is we say, okay, every single time you make this call to us as the bank, we will charge you X number of euros. So that's what a premium API is.
Okay. Gabriel, what kind of business models do you see? I mean, you have a worldwide overview with plug and play with many corporate partners, many banks, and so on. What kind of business models do you see involving when banks are trying, so to say, to make the best out of this opportunity being offered?
Well, very, very often what we're seeing is that they're going down through, let's say, a revenue share model. That happens quite often, where they're saying, okay, we're going to let you be part of our ecosystem within the bank, have access to these clients. And if, for instance, the clients that you gained by coming through us or through our portal or through our API store, then there can be a potential rev share model within there. So I know a lot of banks are exploring that. I'm going to be honest, I am a little bit skeptical to how functional it really is and whether it is a business model that can be maintained in the long run, as to say. I think what we're dealing with now are that clients want everything for free, fundamentally. They want things for free. They feel that they own all their own information, all this. They should have all these services at a touch of a button, and why should they pay for anything? And that's fundamentally a fairly difficult problem that a lot of the startups we work with are facing. It's this desire for freedom and for free, and not going above trial and not going for more paid for services. That said, one thing I do want to mention, and I think it's very, very important, especially considering, we're talking about how some banks are much more evolved than others when it comes to providing APIs, is the fact that even if you're just if you have to comply, fundamentally, you should go big or go home, right? Because when it comes down to it, if you don't go big, someone else will, and you're just going to be lagging behind. And what we often see is that banks, when they try to figure out their offerings with APIs and how they're going to partner with different startups and how they're going to have them added to their API store, for instance, and if they can actually get some revenue out of that, is that this becomes a big overt project, right? That becomes hidden within the confines of the bank, that they plan for 2 years on end. And eventually when it does launch, because they want to launch, with a big fanfare and it's a big deal, it's already behind by like 8 months. So it's always trying to balance that these entities need to somehow work like fintechs and like startups in themselves. Better off with an MVP being sent out to clients as soon as possible and figuring out whether those business models that they, planned and they imagined in a boardroom are actually free and actually works with consumers. But I think everybody's trying to figure it out and figure out that balance.
Yeah. Maybe one another question that is kind of, so to say, cruising in my head. In the digital economy, we talk about the winner takes it all principle on many levels, in platform economy and so on and so forth. Do you think that in this field of open APIs, because you said that if you don't go big or go home because somebody else will do it, do you mean by that it will be a kind of the winner takes it all market, or will there be space for many banks developing their business models around the open APIs?
So I don't think that we are quite in the situation where we're not fighting in a market, we're fighting for the market. It's not quite there yet. It just means that some banks will be a lot more evolved and provide much better service and much more applicability that can be used in different areas. And so other banks will just be, in a way, underwhelming. And you don't want your clients to be underwhelmed, particularly in this day and age where clients are just, they don't provide that much, let's say, monetary value per person. Like that is one of the big issues in incumbent and just in major banking nowadays is how do you actually make money off your clients? So better not be underwhelming, I guess. But there is still space for many people to be there, many different parties, many different entities, and to actually integrate together. But you don't want to be underwhelming and lagging.
Can I just add that, on this topic of breaking out from being a fast follower to becoming like a market leader, as you guys are talking about, I think traditionally banks are really hyper-focused on mitigating risk. And that's kind of where we're stuck. We don't want to put our money into experimenting and trying new things and seeing just how things go and watching them fail. Because that's a huge part of innovation, right? Watching things fail. So that's our biggest obstacle that we've got right now. And this is really visible in the amount of money we spend on prototyping and testing ideas, kind of like how Gabrielle just mentioned. We must turn that mindset on its head. And this is really the single largest obstacle we need to overcome in the next few years, even at RBI.
But I mean, let's ask also Deutsche Bank and Thorsten and Peter from your perspective. I think the topic being addressed right now is that we need in the banks some kind of cultural change and mindset in terms of how do we develop our products. Gabrielle said we need more of a startup-minded mindset when we develop products. Customer centricity is an issue. Will that be driven by, would that be pushed and boosted by this whole area of open banking, open API, and can these products be developed in a traditional way, or do we need to inevitably change?
We have to change, yes, and we did so in our team, for example. And I would also say there are two worlds. There's the private client who doesn't want to pay for anything, and there's a corporate client who has huge benefits if he has smooth processes. So he will pay. And they have different requirements regarding the service they need. And also we have to adapt on our side what monetization, what service then is in there for this client group. And even inside these clients are differences. For example, as we come back to the payment thing, we are trying to push the private client side and the fintechs a little bit more with offering our products in APIs. So that we earn revenue with our products being in the platform where the client is, and the corporate bank they pay directly. But at the end, to have this mindset, you have to go into the product management of payment, of lending, and all those. They have in the bank to understand that this API really is another channel to market the products on the one hand, and on the other hand, for the corporates, I think in the future, a bank which doesn't have it won't be a player anymore, because the corporates easily don't have the money to have all the stuff out there to do the things all manually and switching from one to another platform. So, and the third one would be wealth management. They have again other things to look into. So there we can go quite nitty-gritty in every client group, but still at the nucleus of it, the team has to look and see how the services for all three client groups are that standardized that they are consumable out there, that not everything is different.
What do you think, and the same question to Sudeep as well, in general, I know you don't have a study on that, but in general, your gut feeling, do the banks and the employees in the banks, not only the board members, but especially the employees in the bank, perceive these open APIs as a threat for maybe their jobs, their business, or as an opportunity to grow their business further?
I think, it's mixed. It's a mixed bag. You definitely see those who possibly, incumbent banks are definitely feel a little threatened. At first, they were a little threatened by fintechs for some reason. Slowly but surely, we're starting to realize, actually, no, these are great partners. And initially as well, I think we felt a threat from big techs. And now, again, I'm going to use Thorsten as an example, but Deutsche Bank has kind of, and actually not just Deutsche, Citi, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, they've all started kind of partnering up with these big techs. So yes, is there an initial kind of threat mentality? Yes, there is. But in actual fact, I think the opportunities are far greater.
Mm-hmm. Peter, what do you think about this question of big tech companies? Opening API is also enabling them maybe to enter the banking market to attack the revenue streams of traditional banks. How do you see this competition from your fintech perspective, and which role do fintechs play in this, so to say, field between banks, big tech companies, and being these fintech speedboats with a very specific expertise?
Yeah, so let me start by saying, obviously coming from the corporate banking space, I mean, this corporate banking space and cash management and treasury for large corporates is highly sophisticated. And the APIs that need to be consumed by these corporates need to be highly sophisticated. And these big tech companies aren't in this space. So if you look at the workstations and the systems which treasurers use, large corporates are using today, big complex ERP systems, treasury management systems, they're highly sophisticated systems. And in order to get value out of the APIs need to provide that sophisticated level of data. And if you come back to the topic of open banking and the open banking APIs which we see today, they simply don't. They don't provide that level. And that's sort of this rise that we mentioned before, the premium APIs and the more sophisticated data, historical data. I think Sudeep, you mentioned about invoice reconciliation. I mean, to reconcile tens of thousands of invoices through all different types of cards, credits, checks, all different types of payment types. It's a lot of heavy data. And yeah, I mean, for big techs, this is a whole new business, a whole new industry. I think in the retail space, and I assumed you've got the retail rocks, I should have had corporate rocks on my show. But yeah, so I think it's Sudeep and Thorsten who speak more, and Gabrielle on the retail side. But in the corporate space, I just don't see it happening. And then just touching on your question of commercializing. Actually, I'll mention how fintechs work with banks today, because it's a great story and an amazing relationship we have with RBI today. I mean, we went through their elevator program, amazing team, very well structured, and it's allowed us to navigate within the different teams in the bank, product, tech, sales team, in order to bring a product to a customer very fast. And already within a few months, that customer is already adopting the product and adopting APIs. And this is a huge value where fintechs can work with banks and provide that rapid adoption and start generating wallet share for the bank.
Mm-hmm. Gabrielle, is that the opportunity for fintechs that you see as well there to create mutual business together? I mean, at the beginning, I remember 3 years ago, we were talking about, will the fintechs disrupt the banks? Are the fintechs new banks? And as Sudeep said, this discussion is history. Nowadays, these guys are thinking how to grow their business together. Pardon?
I said, I'm so glad it's history, this discussion. We can't talk about that anymore. But fundamentally, what we're seeing isn't that. It's just that everybody has a place. They do have a place because there's just so much that can be done fundamentally, so much that can be done. And we often get caught up in this discussion about, fintech, but are we talking about a neobank or are we talking about other fintech services providers? And then you can actually go down the whole route of what exactly is a fintech startup? Is it necessarily a startup that's attacking or complementing actual core business units, or are they also helping incumbent banks in other providers, in other services, whether it's through just general process management or automation, or just general, helping out with the tech stacks and making things a little bit more palatable for the IT team? What exactly is fundamentally a fintech? And so what we can definitely see is that we have our own biases, I think, and we like to pigeonhole places, people, solutions in those pigeonholes. And that's not the reality. It's fundamentally not the reality. And yes, there are, fintechs that are going after big banks. There are neobanks that are around, and, some of them haven't even hit revenue yet, profitability yet. I think they said recently that Starling might be the first one. But if they start hitting profitability, soon they're going to have capital requirements laws that are going to start having to be implemented. So I'm not sure if they really do want to hit that profitability. And then you do have these fintech startups that are actually complementing business unit and complementing services, and see big banks and see that clients, fundamentally clients, right? And that's the idea.
If I agree and also disagree on one point over there, especially about the neobanks.
Tell me what
this is obviously debatable, but when it comes to neobanks, yes, they might be somewhat of a threat in capturing market share that we already have. But you know what? If you look at it from a different perspective, what if we did partner up with a neobank? What if we said, you know what, we're not going to build our own digital bank now? What if we said, okay, you know what, Revolut, hey, let's set up some sort of business model between us so that we can now both work together, and therefore we're providing solutions to customer a lot faster. So I think that's something that we might want to do.
For example, what's your gut feeling at RBI?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
Would you be open for that kind of discussion to let's say go to N26, Revolut, and those big neobanks, and to talk to them about what you just mentioned?
I think that's a discussion way above my pay grade, but personally, I think that's the way forward. We should stop trying to build every single little thing by ourselves. It just doesn't make sense. We are moving at a much faster pace. I think there are some core things that we do need to pay attention to, but let's explore. Let's see whether a different distribution channel might be better, partnering up with a neobank or whoever else. So yeah, personally, absolutely, let's partner as much as we can.
Or can I give an alternate solution to that? Because I actually do see this as a fundamental problem, is that, as you know, banks are big rickety things, they're a house of cards, essentially. And over the last, 5-10 years with the whole fintech and, the whole APIs that help actually connect to those systems and make us actually be able to talk to the IT systems that we couldn't talk to before and make things a little bit more easily. I feel that fundamentally it's just as if we're taking this house of cards and putting a little bit of layer of glue, a little bit here and then a bit of glue there and a little bit of glue there, because we want APIs to talk to these ancient systems, from 50 years ago, right? In order to be able to use them today in our more mobile friendly and more mobile first world. And fundamentally at some point, that house of cards cannot be sustained with bits of glue here and there. And a lot of banks will have to think, okay, should we fundamentally be just building a whole new digital bank and fundamentally actually looking to start transferring clients little by little to this new bank? Something that'll be more interoperable.
Gabrielle, do you see that happening somewhere in the world?
I don't know. I do know a lot of banks are currently creating their own digital banks, but I'm not sure if they have the plan to start moving their people to that yet.
So let me just talk about RBI. We do have two digital banks kind of emerging. Like I said, there's a lot of exciting things going on at RBI. That's just one of them. But we have a digital bank focused specifically towards SMEs. And then there's a digital bank which is not yet available yet, but we're working on it, which will be for our personal clients. So there's definitely that happening at RBI as well.
Deutsche Bank, Thorsten?
Yeah, also, I mean, the cloud partnership is not because, it's nice to have a big tech name behind us, but it's also something fundamental we want to change. So yes, but it's not we are moving the one bank to another bank. But it's like APIs. Every system can talk with each other, and part of the systems will be in the cloud in the future, where they can be optimized, like traffic and everything. Space is easier in the cloud, and step by step, we can then, using our API first approach, every system talks with every system via APIs internally and externally and independent of channel. Like Deutsche Bank is a group of banks already. So we have the Norris Bank and we have the Post Bank, and each of them is working on the same system. So they all are. They don't have their own IT in the future anymore, but have one fundament, and being it in the cloud or wherever.
We have a few questions in the chat, so I'd like to take one. Christian Kansian, thank you very much. Since PSD2 is now at least more than 1 year officially released, how is the adoption by customers, PSUs? Whoever would like to answer that. Thorsten, you are skeptical.
It is. So first we thought, okay, then PSD2 starts and everybody is going in and using these PSD2 interfaces. But at the end, it's the universe is smaller than we thought at the end.
Okay.
It all depends on what the customer is using right now and what it is using for. In Germany, we had this fintech approach before PSD2 came, and most systems like tax declaration and everything was possible via that way already. And they migrated to PSD2. Yes, that's what happened. But it's not still the traffic we have in our online banking, for example.
If I may chime in as well. So, this is interesting. I was actually out having a socially distanced coffee with a friend of mine, and we were talking about what I do, and we were talking about open banking, and I was explaining to him how transaction aggregation works and how you can basically pull in transactions from different banks, and he freaked out. He said, whoa, why would I want to do that? So there's this idea, that this is bad. And so it isn't just an evolution of technology and business processes, this is a customer evolution as well. It's going to take some time. We're going to have the typical life cycles that you see with adoption, where you have your early adopters, you have your early to late majority, and then your laggards eventually as well. But this is like any other technology. So I think we're just seeing the beginning. But if you look at, I think it was a report by the OBIE, there was 2 million users of open banking. They say open banking of September of this year. So it's growing, and that's in the UK. So we'll
but I think
definitely
it's an
see.
important. I think it's an important question, because we were talking about the acceptance among the employees. Board members are probably already on board, but the employees. But essentially, it's about the market. What does the market say? What do the consumers say? Are they willing to accept that their banks are building products not with their own IT staff, but with fintechs and other teams outside the banks? What do you think about that? Do you think the acceptance will be there?
I think at the end of the day, and I'm sorry, I'm hogging the time over here, but at the end of the day, what it's going to end up coming to is the type of services that we offer. So as we unleash this technology and more solutions start getting developed in, like wealth dashboards, bill management, insurance, tax processing, carbon footprint, and digital gifts, you name it. In the SME side, you've got credit scoring, automated onboarding, insurance there as well, payroll services. Once people start using these things, then they're going to start feeling more. So it's definitely, there's a feedback cycle there, and we're going to have to kind of let this evolve naturally.
Great.
Yeah. So we have the same experience. So month by month, more clients are using it. So a tax declaration, for example, if the thing is there and the first start and tell the next and then the next and then the next, so it's like a viral thing,
like a domino,
coming.
okay.
Yeah, and the fintechs also. They even switched their bank because they can use API services and directly connect, and they don't want to build capacity in bookkeeping that manually do things. They want to have it fully digital if they start a business. But changing something is more difficult than having a new start and directly going with it. So that's our experience there, but the rest will come.
I mean, Peter, maybe this is an interesting question for you. Do you think it will be a competitive advantage for banks to open up, to attract the best fintechs out there?
I mean, yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's all about the bank coming to the client. The client's not coming to the bank anymore. And if the bank wants to win, gain that wallet share, they have to embed within the existing infrastructure, the existing workstation of the customer. And I give you an example. I mean, the bank can come up with an amazing, highly valuable API. Let's say something around, I don't know, offering the signatories on an account. Something treasurers would keep in all Excel today. You know, they have Excel structures of all the limits. There could be an API to show that all the pooling structures of the account with all the signatories on the account, huge valuable. So then the bank would approach the corporates, they approach the treasurer and say, hey, we've got this great API, huge value. The treasurer says, great, let's see it. Let's see the solution. So the bank presents the technical specification, you know, a 200-page tech spec, and it goes to the treasurer, well, what do I do with this? And then it eventually goes to the IT department. The IT look at it and they're like, okay, I mean, this is a big project. Our systems are not designed to work with this real-time data. They're all batched processes. So how are we going to get adoption? And this is the challenge. And then there's no adoption of the API, or it gets scheduled as a one-year project, and nothing moves. So yeah, so this is what we do at Finlink. We provide that plug-and-play solution in the corporate environment, so they can take advantage and adopt in a very rapid way.
Fantastic. Maybe final question also from the chat. Shadi Isa is asking, very interesting. Obviously, Gabriel, maybe I will pass it over to you, but then feel free to join in. In the continuous search for the killer app or business case of PSD2, what are the most promising examples and initiatives that proved to be successful so far?
Oh, gosh, that's such a big question. Big question. To be honest, I don't think I can. That's the thing. Okay. At Plug and Play, we see a lot of very interesting things that are popping up here and there. And we also know there's interesting projects. But because we work with so many banks, we can't always share what's currently happening, what's currently right?
Sorry, I forgot to mention that you don't have to share confidential things. But if you give some anonymized.
However, what's been very interesting this year, because I'm sorry, I didn't want to mention this year, and nobody's mentioned this year, but let's just say this year. We all know what this means. We've seen that there's a lot of potential with APIs and a lot of potentials with connecting to banks at the moment, simply because the processes that were needed to actually disperse so many loans, so much money, so many different grants to different people, and not just in Europe, across the world, were maybe not always up to scratch. And that was a huge opportunity for fintechs to really show how they could be help and how they were beneficial, because they had the processes in place and they could partner up very, very rapidly. But someone, if you can give a concrete example, really that you can share, I think that would really complement the question.
I'm going to chime in as always over here. So we've definitely seen things like account aggregation, information for lending decisions, personal financial management, SME financial management, account-to-account money transfers. Those are definitely very good use cases that have materialized after PSD2 came about. Some of the things that we really haven't seen so far is automatic product switching, balance transfer management on credit cards, high balance sweeping, cash flow optimization, interest maximization, things of that nature. So there's still stuff that's left out there that we can do.
Okay.
I actually have one little point that I just thought about, and that could actually be interesting and very, very pertinent. What we are actually seeing very, very recently in the last few months actually is, as you know, many banks are fundamentally, they have quite a big pool of SMEs, So SME clients that have been disproportionately affected this year. And so they're looking very much so with a lot of vigor at what kind of solutions they can implement into these sort of, let's say, one-stop shop packages that they can provide to their SME clients in order to, in a way, be that provider and help them get on their feet when they are able to reopen. And that's been very, very much based on partnerships and building out these APIs into one solution. But that's one example I can give that's very, very pertinent at the moment.
Fantastic, thank you. Maybe final answer from you, Thorsten?
Yeah, and now I also think that's not the one solution out there that fits all and that's it. So there are microservices, many services, many fintechs, many business cases in there, and each partner out there needs something different. And that's why we also said we can't do everything alone. We can't do this one thing alone, but we need the partners because they are better, they are more innovative. We can't do it out of our bank, but there are specialists there that are far faster. We give them our support with their API, with the data, and they can then implement and partner up and with us and the partners out there.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The time is up. Thank you also for your questions. Olena had another question, but Tanya answered it in the chat already. Thank you very much for that as well. Dear panel, it was very exciting. We could talk and go on for hours more, but our time is up. So thank you for being with us and ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we are moving on to our next panel, another exciting discussion. We're going to be talking about the big open banking theory, another cool name. I have to really compliment our colleagues from RBI, really creative names. And I'd like to call to me on stage Marek Chlebicki, IT Strategy and Solution Task Force at RBI. Then Hakan Eroglu, Global Open Banking Lead Advisor at MasterCard and Member of Advisory Board at Berlin Group. And we have Philipp Nagel as well, who jumped in for his colleague from the regulatory and compliance side of RBI, I think. Philipp, welcome to us. Did I introduce you correctly? Maybe you can just help me with your concrete position.
Legal services instead of regulatory affairs, but close.
Okay. Great. So we're going to be discussing a little bit different topics than the first panel. We're going to deep dive into, let's say, interoperability, feasibility, and costs regulation. And let's start with the question, what common standards are required for open finance to develop? Hakan, maybe I'll start with you. We didn't talk about standardization. We touched upon it in the previous panel. Is that crucial to being able to develop this field of businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you just mentioned, right, there are multiple industry initiatives at the moment in Europe. When we look into the European Union and UK and others in Europe, standards is quite crucial. And we are not only talking about the famous topic around API standards. So there are standards around when it comes to security, for example. So how can the different players in the ecosystem can communicate with each other in a standardized, secure way. The other area that you need to look at is especially when data is being shared with APIs and also initiation of payments. How do you orchestrate? How do you organize disputes, for example? So all these things that we know in the payment space, especially the card space, which is well established, is something that needs to be developed in the open banking and the wider open finance space. I think these are standards as well. And last but not least, we have the experience in Europe, but also in the UK, that performance is also crucial. And that these are all topics around standards that we need to look at. And last but not least, just to mention, I think at the end of the day, it's about the end consumer, it's about customer experience, it's about benefits for consumers. And open finance is the answer, or let's say it's the next evolution after open banking, because the market usually understands like regulation or payment initiation account information under open banking, which is in a way true, but open banking is more like a concept of collaboration and building joint offerings between banks, fintechs, and tech companies. Open finance goes beyond that. I think open finance is about, first of all, about more asset class, about more information, first of all, to be shared. It's also about more collaboration with other industry players. just in brackets, open data. So open finance makes more sense when you combine it or when the banking industry is building a core infrastructure for the wider open data ecosystem to be the fuel for data, for banking and payment services. So that's the role that I see for open finance, and we need infrastructure standards, a kind of a vehicle to have a baseline for open finance, for the wider open finance ecosystem. And that's just some thoughts as for the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, let's jump into the whole question of infrastructure in terms of infrastructure versus business cases and new business, so to say, because we hear a lot from about the fear of banks or maybe other industry players to being reduced to an infrastructure provider versus developing new business opportunities. Where do you think the banks will find their space in the field of infrastructure or in the field of new business and platforms that they can build with the open technology?
I think, just in my case, so having discussions with banks, especially also in markets like the US, for example, where open banking is not regulated, but still, as we have seen, tech companies, one of the bigger ones that have tapped into financial advisory, like Google and others, using access to bank accounts, but also providing their own banking services. And as you can see, these companies are using core infrastructure from incumbent banks, right? We heard that from banks around Europe that have been established themselves as core infrastructure providers. And we call it, some call it banking as a service, some others call it bank platform as a service. So there are multiple terms for that. So what we understand is basically 2-3 areas. So the one is providing core banking infrastructure, like the banking solution, the core banking solution, which is in an ideal world, modular, agile, easy to implement. And there are plenty of banks who are doing that already. They are selling their banking license to fintechs, challenger banks, but also to tech giants, as we have seen in the US. Then what we also have seen is marketplaces. So these players are integrating third parties, like fintechs, of course, to build white label services. And these services can be, again, white labeled and sold to other banks or to other tech companies. So just to summarize it quickly, I think that's not something bad, really. I mean, to think about these business models, because usually when we think about open banking, we think about, and this is also part of the truth, because banks need to look into front end as well. So how can I build applications on top of others' infrastructure to remain relevant? On the other side, it's not mutually exclusive to think about, if I have a stack of capabilities of unique skills and techniques and solutions, why not white labeling it and selling to others? And that doesn't mean that you're, just reducing yourself into the infrastructure, which was a fear from many banks at the very beginning from PSD2, where they said we are degraded to an infrastructure provider that is covering risk and compliance and all the expensive things, and the others can benefit from that because we are offering at free of charge. I think this is the trend that we see as well, that bank platform as a service, banking as a service are those type of business models that can be looked at while providing infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Marek, yeah.
Adding to what Hakans have said, I don't think that this is the either-or discussion.
Absolutely.
It's to a very large extent about the capabilities we have and unique capabilities which we have as banks, both in terms of the infrastructure, technology, but also not to forgetting the trust which we have from our customers, and turning these capabilities into the different business models in which the same bank with the same infrastructure and the same technology can play the different role depending on the business model and the business use case which we see in front of ourselves. Obviously, this is also difficult to abstract this discussion from the changes which are around us. And looking from this perspective, the increasing digitization of not only banking sector, because don't get me wrong, we were already quite there in terms of the progress of digitization even before Corona. But looking nowadays on the recent changes, we see the biggest progress actually not in the financial services, but everywhere around. We can call it retail, we can call it e-commerce, we can call it any governmental topics, which are very much scaling up in terms of the digitization. And for a lot of these new sectors growing in the digital space, obviously the financial part and financial, let's say, background or service is very important part. So looking from this perspective, this B2B2C channel is growing with the importance of the e-commerce, with the clear space for the banks and for the financial institutions to step in. In terms of second, I would say, argument or point of view in the role or the final role of the financial institutions is to it to large extent depends how quick we will be in terms of the development. Because when there is a need, this need is, that this environment does not wait too much or too long for fulfilling this. And the question is if this need will be fulfilled by the banks and by the proper value proposition from the business side and proper technology provided by the banks, or the retailers or the e-commerce players will start to fulfill the same gap on their side. Then perhaps only let's say limiting the role of the bank into the infrastructure or the accounting book in the end for the loan or depot which is generated by the client. So I think this is very much, let's say, multi-dimensional game. But what I would say that still the speed of build up and being, let's say, active in terms of defining the use cases on the business side and preparing the infrastructure and technology underneath, and the speed of it and flexibility perhaps will be, I think, the most important factor in order to being able to fulfill these different possibilities which Hakan was bringing.
Philip, what do you think about the standardization on the regulatory side? Could you give us some insights, and how was your, so to say, path on the regulatory side when implementing all of these necessary regulations regarding the open APIs?
Well, I would say one of the major issues that have been addressed has been based on delays on the regulatory side. Just talking about delayed publishing of the RTS, other legal frame that has not been cleared, but only afterwards. Just looking at the question on the connection between GDPR, for example, and PSD2 is working. So there is a big scope of uncertainty, a big field of uncertainty when it comes to new technologies, new possibilities, because usually the technology and also the innovation is far ahead of the regulator and the lawmakers who are trying to catch up on that. And also with the PSD2, you have one major impact, that is that it is a directive and not a regulation, which means it has to be transformed, it has to be set and brought into local law, which means also for the harmonization, even though you're not to conduct gold plating on the national level, you always will find national differentiations between the legislation, even if it is just in how national authorities are executing the law that has been implemented. And I think that is one of the major challenges when it comes to the harmonization of the legal framework. When it comes to such a directive, you will always need to consider, is this really working with the national authorities? And on the other hand, also, are the national authorities capable to also, let's say, get the technical aspects of it? So do they understand what this is about? Do they have not only the regulatory and the legal knowledge about it, but also do they understand the technical aspects of it? Because
what is your impression? Sorry to interrupt. What is your impression? Do they understand?
I would say yes, but they are, I believe, depending also quite a lot on the European level. And prefer to wait. What is not bad in respect of harmonization. But I believe there was a lot of external impact as well involved when it came to the earliest questions of SCA, of the RTS as a whole, and also on defining that European-wide standards of technical implementations. So neither an easy situation for the national regulator in that respect, but of course also not for the companies and fintechs and banks who needed to adopt and to execute and really implement the necessary changes.
How was this process for you internally in the bank? Was it, let's say, cost intensive? Was it, so to say, long and tiring? Or how did it work?
I wouldn't say tiring. I would say that it was complicated. Let's say that way. Just at the very beginning, complicated for especially as a lawyer to work with uncertainties and to be able to only provide unsatisfying answers when somebody's asking you, because you needed to say, well, we do not know. So I have no further material to assess this. I cannot tell you if I can only break this down to such legal principle and such legal principle if now PSD2 is overruling GDPR, or if GDPR is overruling PSD2, or especially when it came to the technical aspects of it. Yeah, is this solution correct? Is this in line? So, tell me what the technical aspect of it is. What do you see is the trouble in connection with the? Where do you see a point where you doubt that you might follow in accordance with the law? So the same aspects as for the regulator also applied from a legal perspective, that you had to work a lot with uncertainties and best effort spaces in order to comply, and I believe we managed that quite well overall.
Marek, was it similar on the IT side? How was it? Was it cost? I mean, help us understand how. I'll use the word expensive, and how much effort do you need when building up these new systems? Can you give us some insights on the cost and feasibility of that?
Yes, maybe one more aspect, which was also, I think, brought by Philip, and I think maybe this is even the most important, looking from the perspective of us, and I can say on behalf of the RBI as a banking group, which is present on the multiple markets. We need to remember that obviously all the regulatory guidelines, also the technical specifications, are being prepared on the pan-European level with a lot of communities and a lot of joint work, which is, let's say, put a lot of steam into definition of the best standards which could be followed. But still, this is on certain level of a kind of recommendation or guideline. And first, this is subject to the local interpretation by the particular regulators, which means in our case, multiple interpretations of multiple regulators. So looking from this perspective, I think this is creating the cost. This is not the cost of adjustment to the certain regulatory environment, but the fact that having number of network banks on number of markets, every time we result in the different specification, which is also adjusted or adapted to the local conditions. And second, even if this standard for the particular market is being defined, still this is yet subject of the interpretation and subject of the particular development of particular players. So again, following this open banking, following the open API, building or adjusting our technology to really contribute and be able to use, to consume these new opportunities which are being there visible from our business colleagues. This requires a lot of effort. And what is obviously the challenge is to what extent this is reusable. So looking from this perspective, if we have multiple market, to what extent we are gaining this cost multiple times, and each time for each market we need to undertake the same developments, to what extent this is let's say something which we can reuse and be able to consume based on the same solution, the possibilities on particular market. I think here, Hakan, you can add potentially your point of view from the international cooperation on this standard. To me, still this is one of the challenges which we need to face, and definitely the costs which are associated with it.
Yeah, Hakan, let me pass over to you, and can you also pitch the Berlin Group very quickly for us to understand what you guys do there and what was the reason for starting the group?
I think just to just quickly explain what it is. So there's the industry body, which is the Berlin Group, that was came together a few years ago to address the issue or the topic around the API standard, which was also described in the RTS, right? That the APIs, the dedicated interface, needs to be aligned with some kind of international standard. So Berlin Group was amongst others to define it for payment initiation account information. So they came up with a framework. And the organization that I'm a member of is the NextGen PSD2 Advisory Board, which is a separate kind of group that is kind of elected members of experts from the market to define, what are the next steps. So what else can the ecosystem develop to serve the ecosystem with additional use cases, with additional data, and so on and so forth. And at the moment, there is an interesting development that the Berlin Group, NextGen PSD2, has just launched a task force for open finance that goes beyond PSD2, obviously. In brackets, as you know, the European Commission has announced that there will be a kind of a follow-up of PSD2 or kind of an open finance framework kind of regulatory approach that will be published next year. So that will be something aligned with that. And in the advisory board, we are also working on the next generation open banking / open finance use cases that we believe is a value add to the ecosystem that we suggest to the market, right? It is not a regulatory body that is, having some kind of authority to issue these API standards and everybody has to implement it. It's just an offer to the market.
Mm-hmm. What kind of role do these, let's say, not regulatory, but irregulatory frameworks build, so to say, when it comes to addressing the problems that Marek stressed out in terms of global and international standardization on many levels? For me, it seems to be crucial for the development of the whole API market. I don't know, how do you see it? And where are the, so to say, next milestones to be achieved in this field?
I think, as I said at the beginning, this is one puzzle piece of many, right? API standards is, when you look into the standardization, we are standardizing certain data fields, certain information for transactions and for accounts, some kind of information that is being exposed to the outside world, right, from the bank. What we also look at is, it also defines in a way the customer experience as well. We have seen that in the UK, for example, in UK open banking, which is not part of Berlin Group, but they came up with a prescriptive regulation with prescriptive standards. And it also, for example, includes standards and or let's say SLAs on performance of the APIs. It also includes information around how can these APIs be implemented, giving some kind of best practices, implementation of the SCA, for example, strong customer authentication, which was also, by the way, a very important topic and an issue in the implementation of PSD2, because the RTS, for example, also states that there shouldn't be any obstacles, right, in the customer journey, and which is also, by the way, something that can be interpreted in different ways, in different MCAs, right? So I think these standardization organizations play an important role to articulate the interests of different market players, be it banks, be it fintechs, be it established payment companies and others, to see, okay, what are the needs of the market, what are the needs of consumers and the different players. And it is more or less a channel to articulate that in frameworks. But what we are not going to have is probably to have a standard that fits all the purposes. It's more like a agile, flexible framework that is a toolkit to have some kind of a de facto standard, and that makes it easier to keep it interoperable between the countries.
Mm-hmm. Philip, what extent do you expect at least the legal framework to be harmonized internationally? I mean, we could look at Europe, but then beyond as well. What kind of level of harmonization will we see there, or what kind of level of harmonization would be necessary from your point of view?
Well, I'd say necessary, that's the production and the business side to decide what is necessary. I mean, from a legal side, it's definitely to have a specific legal certainty when conducting the business. So European is one market. So I would need certainty that my product that I'm developing in Austria will be treated equally in Spain, in Poland, in Bulgaria. And to know that the legal frame is harmonized in a way that doesn't urge me to, always conduct the legal due diligence in 27 different jurisdictions. On the international level, it's more complicated, of course. We're not having a world governance, thankfully, and there it is the same. It is to find a legal frame in a country or in a region that is matching more or less the legal frame that you have in Europe, and one that is developed to a certain extent that allows you to have that certainty. So a legal frame that doesn't leave open too many open questions, which are then subject to interpretation by local authorities, by courts, by other interest groups, which might terminate all your efforts on a certain point, where it, for example, gets into the way of protecting businesses of your own company. So basically trying by force to get you out of the market because the legal frame leaves so much room for interpretation that whatever the political situation allows will be used either to open or to close the market. And I would say that is this certainty and also the possibility to plan on a mid and a long term is one of the crucial issues always when it comes to abroad investments or contact with foreign law.
Marek, what about using
Maybe to what Philip have said, I also wouldn't expect the standardization coming from the purely from the regulatory or the legal side. I think it would be a bit even sad if this would need to happen. But really believe that with the use cases, concrete use cases, and also kind of pan-European or multinational use cases, which will be brought also looking business-wise, I think this creates a lot of opportunity to standardize. And looking from this context, I think a lot of standards which are also being defined from the business, but also from the technology perspective. I believe also from the legal side will follow, because if we will have concrete multinational use cases with concrete players having their presence across multiple countries, then obviously this enforcing of the certain standards will need to come. Meaning I cannot imagine other way around. But I think this just can happen with the maturity and with the, let's say, business cases behind growing. If this would be so, I'm quite sure that both on the technology side and looking from the regulatory, it will follow. I think this business view need to be defined first.
Marek, in the previous panel, we were also talking about the opportunities for big tech companies to enter the market once the APIs are open, so to say, to be new competitors in this field. Do you think that the regulatory bodies will try to protect the financing sector by regulating this in order not to allow or enable them the same, so to say, playing level field on the market, or will this not happen?
Listen up. I think this is the topic much broader than perhaps the topic of this panel. This threat of, let's say, GAFA or other big tech companies stepping into financial services is, I think, a kind of broad topic, and we could discuss it in the past. We can discuss it now. Perhaps we'll discuss it in the future. On one hand, obviously, the financial services market is very attractive also for this potentially new players. On the other hand, it's also very much regulated and very much relying on certain specific capabilities, which I think the financial services and the banks are, I would say, the great swimmers in this pool. And this is not necessarily like a pool full of sharks and piranhas. So looking from this perspective, not everyone wants to immediately jump in. And don't get me wrong, I think still the big tech companies will have the interest to step into the financial services, but at least at this stage, I think they will be more selective in terms of why they are doing this and in which areas they are doing it, how this accompany their current operating models or the business models looking from this perspective. In terms of the regulator, I think the regulator should not and will not protect the banks or the financial services. In the end, the regulator is to protect the clients. And as far as the client is being protected and all the, let's say, requirements which are keeping the clients and their finances safe are being met, I think this is the equal game looking from this perspective. And I think if I would expect looking from this perspective that this will be the main focus looking from the regulatory perspective. One maybe last point, if there is any fair or unfair competitive advantage in this kind of environment, if the let's say this regulatory frameworks are being defined in a kind of equal way, I think this is then up to the financial institutions to prepare the value proposition for themselves. And also this is not an accident that how the big tech companies like Apple are stepping into the financial services. They are stepping in with the very established experience incumbents being there in order to leverage these capabilities. I would see rather, let's say, co-opetition rather than competition looking from this perspective. But again, it requires from us as a banks being well prepared for these new models. If we will be prepared for these new models, I'm quite convinced that we will defend ourselves without the intervention from the regulator.
Okay,
Hakan? Just to add on this, Marek says, I agree. I think the point that Marek raised was about that regulators are not going to protect banks, so they're going to protect the customers. And I can agree with that, especially in the point where we are heading to a open data ecosystem, and that open banking and openness was there anyways for a while, but now we are talking about it because we are in the banking industry and we have open banking now. But I think open data is a topic we need to talk about, and it also impacts other industry players. And the regulator is probably more looking into the point that consumers need to take back control about their data. So they need to have an understanding who is using their data, for what purpose. Can they revoke access to data, for example? Can they also force and ask different players to delete data if they don't use the service anymore? So there is a kind of a democratization of access to data, but the control needs to be with the customer. I think this is the key point, and this is something that we have seen in GDPR and other data privacy regulations, that it is an open data regulation in a way, but it just doesn't tell us that it needs to be accessible in a machine readable way. We have it in PSD2, but it's not for all industries. But I think that's coming, and this will be an area where regulators are probably looking at. And last point was about tech companies. I think, and we have seen that in Brazil, for example, with the regulation where the regulator says, for those who are using banking data, they need to open up as well. So in a way, it's a level playing field. Fintechs, tech companies that are using bank data or access to bank accounts, they need to, on the other way, need to open up as well. So that could be one approach that regulators could look at as well, that all those need to open up as well. And that will end up in an open data ecosystem where those who are the best in customer experience, in combining it in a compelling offer to the end consumers and a better customer experience, frictionless customer experience, are those who are going to win. And I think that what one of the tech companies in the US have done with the product called Plex, for example, is to say, we are not talking about banking, we are talking about to solve consumers' problems. And if that's to show them, account information, or to help them to organize their everyday life, to help them with nudges, to reduce costs, to save costs, whatever, then this is something that is compelling for the customers and they're going to use it. And they don't care if it's just one of the tech companies who are doing that. And I think that's a development, and we shouldn't be underestimating it, but we shouldn't be, thinking about that it is something that would disintermediate the way how things being done today. But I think the middle way is the right one, and the industry needs to be really careful in what's going on. And things can happen very quickly without noticing it. So very interesting times.
How are you making sure, Marek, at RBI, that you're ready? Yeah, Philip, sorry, go ahead.
I would just add that I believe that especially on a European legislation level, it's not just about the client or the consumer. I would say equal to that, it's the market, and that's one of the highest principle of the European Union to ensure free market and to ensure a fair market as well. It's the question, if PSD2 or other initiatives in this perspective are good for the market sometimes depends on what role you have. As a fintech, you will say PSD2 is necessary because I cannot enter the market. As a bank, you would say, yeah, you can create a bank anytime that you want and you have your clients. So I would say I totally agree that on a European level, the consumer, and especially on this perspective of having control over your data, I believe that's quite an important issue. There is clearly a focus on the European level. But I would also say that it's not just about the client and the consumer; it's also about the market as a whole, and on the transparency and on the fairness of the market. And however you define it, as I said, depends on the position you have, and also, of course, is a political question. But I think that also needs to be taken into consideration that there are circumstances where maybe not the customer is in the focus, but the question if market participants require from the view of a legislator a legal framework that enables them to practically enter the market.
Do you think, well, touching upon these topics, maybe just to mention two more and to ask you in our final round about security identity, there was one question being raised to us that I will pass on to you. Who is going to manage TTPs? And then the next one, who will be responsible when things go wrong? I think that has a regulatory aspect as well, whoever wants to take the question.
Well, when it comes to TPPs, I mean, it's the regulator, it's the national regulators. You are, depending on what kind of TPP you are, if you are a payment service provider or an account service provider, you undergo different legal frame irrespective in which country you're in. So that's one of the harmonized minimum standards, that you need to be registered, or that you need to at least have liability insurance for any kind of liability towards clients. So if anything goes wrong in that respect, it's in the hand and in the power, of course, as well, and also an obligation of the national authorities where you have set up as a TPP, or where you registered first to enter the European market.
Mm-hmm. Just to add on this, just quickly. And there are plenty of subtech companies, right? Companies that are helping the ecosystem to do things like, validations, or things like helping regulators as well to to monitor the ecosystem, right? Because the regulation also asks the MCAs to monitor, right? To supervise, to look at whether performance is up to speed, if developer portals are up to date. All these kind of things need to be managed, right? So I think that's also an area of innovation where sub-tech companies are coming up with solutions to support the regulators in fulfilling that role.
And what about, I mean, Hakan, you've been talking about open data, and how do we ensure that, so to say, transferring data and transmitting data in this open data kind of sense in terms of security doesn't lead to misusing it? Do you see any standardization being needed in this aspect, or how do we tackle this issue of potential misuse?
I think, I mean, I can give an answer from that what we do as Mastercard. So one of the areas that we're looking at is to build a framework and kind of an infrastructure around it for data, right? Kind of a dispute resolution application. We know it from in the payment space, which is quite well established, and it's in a way, compared to data, is in a way slightly easier to solve. For example, when you make a payment with open banking with PSD2 APIs, you initiate a payment with instant payment, for example, and there's a dispute. How do you manage the chargeback, for example? So that's one of the easier tasks. Yeah. The others are, for example, data. So if data has been exposed and the consumer complains and claims that it wasn't me as the customer who has provided the consent, and now the data has been misused. So how do you handle that? How do you build an ecosystem, kind of a mechanism to delete data again, to have a mechanism that proves that the customer can be sure that the data has been deleted? So these are the areas that we are looking at as well, and that's the journey towards that solution, I would say, because it's also a quite new space.
Marek, is that some question that, so to say, banks among each other try to regulate mutually, or every bank for themselves? Will there be standardization in this field?
I really believe, I said, in this collective effort, and I think with the use cases which will be coming from the market, this collaboration towards the standard is definitely possible and expected. Obviously, this is on each and every bank or every banking group to be ready for it. And I think this readiness comes with agility, with the proper, I would say, priorities, looking from the architecture to the infrastructure. So internal opening, external opening, and let's say real focus looking from the strategic perspective on the open banking, as we do obviously in the RBI with our open banking tribe. And I think with this and the solid platforms which allow us to open up also to our clients and partners around, we can definitely also collaborate with others, defining the standard which will suit the markets where we operate.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much, guys, for these insights. Super interesting to hear this perspective. The time is up, and thank you very much for being with us, for taking your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So I would like to welcome Christian Wolf with me now in live stream. Christian is the head of strategic partnerships and ecosystem at RBI. Christian, very welcome. Join us on stage.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for hosting us, actually, again.
Thank you for organizing it together with us. Last time you were with us at the blockchain night in the studio. Today you have time to jump in for a statement. Why this event today, and how did you like the first discussions?
Yeah, I liked it very much because I believe it's perfectly brought to the point of what the general discussion is all about, be it on the market or also be it internally with us in RBI. And as you just mentioned, the blockchain hub, I believe there is also a connection to that might be not that obvious actually for most of our viewers, is that, you know, as it's already been said earlier, Open APIs is very much for us about bringing connectivity into digitalization. And the term connectivity defines the ability to make and maintain a connection between one or more participants in an ecosystem, and more precisely for us, in the case of open APIs, this would be being part of an ecosystem. And this is also very much the case as blockchain as an enabler or as a multiplayer game. So as such, open APIs for us are not only technical interfaces, but actually crucial building blocks for our new cooperation and co-innovation concepts. And as said, together with our blockchain hub guys, together with our fintech partnership program, the Elevator Lab, and generally our cross-industry partnership approach, I thus consider open APIs as a very vital component and unique selling proposition in our effort to build what we call CE's largest banking partnership ecosystem. Open APIs, I believe, they allow us to be more flexible, agile, and most importantly, to digitally innovate together with our partners. And we believe that sharing and being connected will path or help us path our way towards the most recommended financial services group, which we put as our mission and vision statement onto our flags. And actually, today's event is not by incident titled From Compliance to Embedded Finance. This is exactly the direction that RBI is currently heading in. Our Open API tribe is actively working on developing and enhancing the group API capabilities, while at the same time we have our local network banks catering to the local market needs. And we are looking at APIs as my favorite example that I also brought in our discussion back at the Blockchain Hub night. It's about Lego bricks. As well as here, we have standardized little building blocks that in combination to each other bear the potential to create an unseen number of customized solutions. And putting them all together, there you can really build great customer journey castles. And as said, and as mentioned in the discussions, we started, of course, as many others, our journey in PSD2, but we are now deliberately heading towards openness in order to leverage our group capabilities in digital co-innovation cooperation and ultimately enable us and to make this largest ecosystem true. And I'm very happy that our Open API guys and Open API leaders will now climb the stage and share more details about our journey and give you a realistic picture of our endeavor beyond the hype.
Perfect. Christian, thank you very much. It's always really impressive for me to see how serious you guys are about these things. You're not only talking partnerships, for example, with fintechs, you're not only working with them together, but obviously opening your data for them to work together with you. That's just a next logical step, a difficult one for many banks, but not for RBI. Thank you very much for being with us. And I will now jump in to your colleagues with me in studio and in Zoom. Christian, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll have now the guys and girls behind the scenes, so to say, who work very, very diligently on these topics. I'd like to welcome Tanya and Gerhard with me in the studio. Tanya, hello.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, Gerhard.
Hi, Diane.
Let me just introduce your, so to say, positions. Open API business owner, Tanya, and Gerhard, Open API delivery manager. You will explain to me what your scope of work is. And we have your colleagues in our call with us. I think we had some changes or not. I will announce Andrea Cintulova. Andrea, hello, are you with us?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Andrea, hello. Then Martin Heinz. Martin, are you with us?
Hello, I'm here.
Perfect. Catalina Areteanu, sorry.
Don't worry, Dan. Hello, everybody, I'm here.
Hello. And last but not least, Andrei Chernik. Hello. You have to unmute yourself,
yes,
Andrei, and then, yeah.
That's the phrase of 2020. Hi, everyone.
It's fantastic to have you guys with us here and to discuss, so to say, the insights, what happened this year, what will happen next year, what kind of work do you do. So for our audience who would maybe like to ask some questions, let's go quickly through your positions and what do you guys do. Tanya.
So, Tanya Imamovic, my role is Open API business owner, and my main goal is to enable RBI to move toward the open, as Christian said, and I'm doing this together with my colleagues that you see here.
Perfect. Maybe let's stick with you and then I'll move on. Why are the APIs important on the high level to the RBI group?
So for RBI, it's all about the customers, right? And today, in order to be successful in banking business, in financial industry, you have to be where the customer is. And the only way how to do that is to enable connectivity and to be open. And this is why open APIs are for us much more than a pure use case. So this is for us really the entire area that will enable us to innovate in a different way, that will enable us to be part of different ecosystems that are built around our customers, and of course that will enable us to bring a superior customer experience, which is at the end our vision.
So would you say you look at it not as a regulatory requirement, but as a business opportunity?
For us, it was never about only something that is regulatory requirement. PSD2 was, I would even say, really, it gave us power to push this topic throughout the organization, but for almost 2 years now, we talk about much more fun things than pure regulation.
Great. Gerhard, Open API Delivery Manager, what do you do?
My basic job is I'm organizing the solution delivery behind all that. That means I'm responsible for the delivery teams. We have 3 of them. A lot of staffing, a lot of recruiting in that, getting the best tech guys to the teams, setting the teams up so that they have everything, that they can develop the APIs and the solutions around it, and be there whatever they need.
Perfect.
In terms of resources, tech and accesses and whatever it's needed. Yeah.
Being there, whatever they need. I will be asking you when we deep dive into the role in Corona year. How was that in this remote, obviously, setting? It will be interesting to hear from you when you have so intense collaboration. Catalina, product owner of RBI API Marketplace. What do you do?
Yes, hello. We are the youngest of the teams that my colleagues were talking about, and my role as product owner is to build a house, let's say, for our APIs across the group and make them easy to be found by the market, by potential consumers, and enable, in the end, this whole ecosystem of partnerships. Add another building block to it, as you were saying, we already have fintech supported and everything. So yes, just adding to this superior partner experience.
Great. Andrea, product owner of group APIs. What do you do? Both, I think, PSD2 and premiums?
Yes, that's correct. So we started, of course, with the PSD2. That's where the fun started 2 years ago. But yes, as we are now already more than a year after the regulatory deadline, of course, also as in previous discussion it was mentioned, there were a lot of still follow-ups from legal point of view, etc. So for sure, PSD2 journey is not over as such, but we are still continuing in that one. But we are already shifting focus also towards the premium APIs. So exploring basically in collaboration with Catalina for the API marketplace, what are the business use cases beyond the regulatory scope? And of course, then with the aim to deploy those on the marketplace.
Would you say that the regulatory, like Tanya mentioned, boosted your activities in the field also of the premium APIs?
For sure, yes. I don't think that we would be even having this discussion now if it wouldn't be for PSD2.
Okay, perfect. Maybe let's start, Gerhard, with you. As I mentioned, we had, as we all know, Corona year. You are on the product side. How was this mode, so to say, on the API? Did the work go on? Did you still cooperate with fintechs? Was that, let's say, we had some boost on this side, but was Corona boost as well, or did it slow down the process?
So I'm not so much exposed to those external partners, so my job is really more the CEO, so in the teams itself, and this was quite challenging. Yeah, so we had to switch from one day to another, from a strong co-location concept, everybody in one office sitting together, into a remote setup. But I think this was not the question. But shall I continue?
Yes.
Okay. And to do that transition, I mean, the teams did it great. It really worked from one day to another without a lot of problems. I mean, we had then issues more than later in onboarding new colleagues, to developers, in nitty-gritty details like shipping laptops to Ukraine, to Israel, and everywhere. So we had to be very kind of inventive to find ways how we can deal with the situation and still continue delivering our solutions and to keep our commitments towards our main customers, network banks, and the ecosystem and stuff like that. So, and the teams did great, really. It went from one day to another without any kind of interruption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe, Tanya, coming back to more high-level perspective, I wrote here that you have 3 pillars or key pillars, so to say, driving this process. Could you just give us an insight on that?
Yes, of course. So if we think about open APIs as a tool that will enable us to be connected, then for us 3 main pillars in order to be successful are capability to consume the APIs that are exposed by third parties, so by other banks or other partners, and in that way we aim to, let's say, bring new data into our organization and enrich the products and services that we already offer to our customers via our own digital channels. Second pillar is, of course, about what we as the organization should expose, meaning the APIs, which are PSD2 and beyond PSD2 APIs, what is important to be offered to either our own customers, if we talk about corporate or SME customers, or to third-party providers, our own partners, so that we can, in that way, be part of the customer journey of private individuals. And the third pillar, which is kind of, let's say, providing visibility into all of this that I mentioned, is the marketplace as such. And marketplace is really important because in the era of connectivity, if you are not visible, if you are not accessible, you stand no chance at all. Especially if you look at how other partners and how other companies around us do this business. So in a nutshell, for us, the core 3 pillars of our strategy is identify and aggregate new data into the organization in order to enrich our own products and services, identify and expose data and services toward external partners, and manage the community, enable visibility and accessibility through the marketplace. And this is actually what the Open API tribe is working on. Here I would just like to mention that if you look at the RBI as a group, it's not only us that you see here working on these capabilities. We do have our colleagues in network banks, and they are in the same way as we are building group capabilities, they are building local capabilities and approaching local partners and local markets.
And how do you guys position the marketplace, for example? Is it something that should monetize in itself, or is it opportunity to gain new partnerships? What is the main focus, for example, in the marketplace?
Well, the main focus is to build a community around it, because in the end, the marketplace is absolutely just a tool. Without the community, without the products, without the whole collaboration from all sides. It's in the end, it's what it really says, a marketplace, a place where people meet, and they meet with the scope, right? The scope is to discover new use cases, to create new ideas that maybe were not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Martin, what about from the IT perspective? We were talking on different panels as well about the challenges on the IT side. How is it to develop all those things, regulatory or premium? What is your insight?
So our insight is that we as a team delivering the consumption platform, we decided together with Tanya and others that we will utilize PSD2 as an opportunity and get the data to our bank, get the data to our network banks, and therefore we are building platform which actually at the moment aggregates more than 15 banks in 4 markets, and basically after harmonization and quite heavy business logic in it, expose established APIs towards the network banks. At present moment, we have 5 business products on network bank side, which are powered by our group platform. And basically, these are internet banking, PSD2 as a service, PSD2 loans, and many others. And on our side, very important thing is to harmonize the data, to provide the data in the same quality, to analyze deeply the PSD2 implementations of the remote banks, what we call, to give it in a structure which is understandable for the business products which are powered by the remote data. So this is what we do. We are a very nice team of 9 people, and hopefully we will be able to move even further than what we know now.
Okay, great. And Drake, could you maybe give us some insight on what the network banks are doing as was mentioned? What kind of activities are you exploring or use cases there?
Yes, obviously, the first use case that most of the network banks started was really to provide the account aggregation of multiple bank accounts in one front end, so mobile or internet banking. And this was, let's say, a very first use case that all the network banks took over, because it was very easy to get the access to the customer data and understand their behavior and potentially provide some additional new products and services. But every new use case, every premium APIs now has to have its own use case and business justification. So there needs to be either new revenue coming to the bank, or there needs to be some added value that brings for the bank. And currently our network banks are focused more on the SME and corporate side, so looking into how we can integrate banking services into invoicing platforms, ERP systems, something that Peter was saying in the first panel, that we really have to go to the customer, because otherwise other banks will be there first, and the customer will be able to switch the bank quite easily, because this service is not provided by us.
Mm-hmm. Could we go through your areas, so to say, of activity and have a look in 2020? What were the biggest milestones and what is next to come, obviously, on different levels? What is next to come in the community, in the product, on the IT side? Where do we have, so to say, the excitement next year? Whoever wants to start, 2020, what were the biggest milestones, Tanya, maybe?
So, as someone looking at the entire tribe, I will not go into details. I would like to leave this to my colleagues really to share the biggest achievements of the product. I would just say from the entire area perspective, 2020 really proved that Open API is needed for a sustainable future in banking. So we have PSD2 APIs up and running. We do know how we are collaborating with TPPs using those APIs. We are managing the community. We have account aggregation built up as a baseline for multiple services. We have such a great team that already, you could hear it, right? The product owners talk among themselves. So the biggest achievement is really the fact that now the topic is being managed by itself. And this is something that proves to me that, we have a nice future ahead.
And maybe just also on the high level, because we were talking about competing in this field with big tech companies from USA. How do you see that? Are they a threat, or is this a completely new market and opportunity opening for you?
So I would say that my personal opinion that this is really opportunity, because at least this is what pushed the banking industry in moving forward. So the big tech companies are the ones, let's say, forming the way how our customers expect that we behave as well, and this is what is pushing us to move forward. So this is what I always appreciate.
Fantastic. Gerhard, in your...
Yeah, I'm more humble here, because if they are successful, I'm successful. So either I didn't harm them or I did the right stuff. So sometimes I don't know. But I think if I look 2020, I think how we scaled out all that is really amazing. So if I look at Martin Heinz and his consumption team, that we moved from one bank beginning of the year to how many now, Martin?
14, yes.
15
and
15 banks,
15,
yeah.
15 banks aggregated, and more,
with two,
nine already being publicly used by the customers.
In the 2 lockdowns, which we had in 2020, so it was really good. Then with Andrea, never an issue. So PSD2 just works, and we never had any kind of regulatory complaint. This is really important, because our network banks are quite nervous here, because they're exposed here very much to the regulator, so all good. And the team now just develops premium APIs. So also here, a good transition, they scale, they work. And we launched the API Marketplace in September, October, something like that. Yeah,
yes,
November.
And if I may say, it was a product entirely developed during the lockdown, with the team recruited during the lockdown, in fully remote onboarding during the lockdown. So I think that this year really proves that it's absolutely nothing is impossible from this perspective, and everything went really smoothly.
Okay, fantastic.
So as I said, so my goal was 3 independent teams who can scale in their parts. They can do, I think they can even do much more next year here, and they have hopefully everything they need, also from a tech stack underlying, that I just can go independently from each other and develop according to our business strategy. So that was the achievement for me 2020. So
fantastic.
3 teams in good shape.
Just maybe help us understand, because we were talking about regulatory aspects of the topic as well, and how do you tackle this? How is the regulatory, so to say, being deal breaker or so to say stopper in the process of building these products and enabling what you did, or was it normal and easy to cope?
Now we have maybe 2 aspects. So PSD2 was a regulatory project which the team already last year delivered in time. So this was really a great achievement from the team at that time. And of course, we are under, kind of always under supervision here. So we have to keep here the promises and deliver according to the regulation. That's one part. The other challenge what we have is that as we are building the solution in the cloud, here we're getting some questions from local CE regulators, because they are not yet there to accept the cloud easily. And here we have then kind of discussions if this is okay. We have to provide much more documentation. Questions are asked. So here we still feel some resistance. Yeah. So that there are 2 aspects here. Yeah.
Super interesting. Thank you.
But we are live in all the countries, so still we are fine. Yeah.
Fantastic. Katerina, you just mentioned the launch of the platform, community building, maybe your biggest milestones 2020.
Absolutely. So this was by far the biggest milestone. It was a new product developed in, I would say, around 6 months with an entirely new team. And yes, the harmony that built inside the team for me was really important. So really thank you, Gerhard, for working with the process, and also my colleagues from the tribe, Andrea especially, and also Martin, because we had and we have a good collaboration. And in the end, none of these products work independently. They are here to build a bigger picture, the bigger community. And I don't know, looking back at this year, it was obviously difficult, but this milestone of being able to launch something entirely new with entirely remotely, from my perspective, really changed our perspective on things, really changed the mindset.
Do you have already the first feedback from the community with regard to the marketplace? How are the first months?
Well, the feedback is good. I obviously participate and present now the product, and I'm happy to say that the feedback is better than I would have thought. Sometimes, when you're really deep inside something, you tend to be really critical with yourself and see that here and there are cracks. But the good thing is that actually they are not important, and the general feedback is good. The usability is great, and already partners are starting to approach us via the marketplace and ask for new use cases, which really, in my opinion, really proves the concept, really proves the value behind building this new environment and supporting the community.
How open are you for so to say, feedback from the community? Do you work with it instantly? How can we imagine that? Where can they write you? When can they approach you?
Well, the marketplace doesn't have yet an instant community, but there is a support section that you can use, and I read all the messages that come from the marketplace. So by all means, hit us with feedback. And I will be talking a bit more later about the marketplace in the keynote speech. And yes, API@rbiinternational.com.
Perfect. Andrea, in your field, you had quite a few, so to say, things to deliver last year. What were the biggest milestones?
Yes, so as we mentioned before, so the real regulatory deadline when RTS came to force was last year, 14th of September 2019. So we went really live according to the deadline, but as also Philip Nagel mentioned in the previous panel, there was still a lot of discussions going on. So even within the European area, still the regulators were not 100% clear. There were still a lot of follow-ups coming on, EBA opinions, directives, etc. So we still had full hands this year. important is, of course, we are implementing for the network banks. They are the ones exposed to the national banks, the regulators. So we always have to communicate with them what is needed. According to the rule, what is on online banking, mobile banking, other digital channels should be on the APIs, etc. So for our 4 network banks running according to Berlin Group standard, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, whom did I miss? Croatia, exactly. So for those 4 countries, we developed a multi-level SCA for accounts, CISP full consent flow, which is actually already kind of almost premium. It's not just the basic one. We also implemented further kind of improvements, smaller features, signing baskets, etc. And then also we supported our CZ colleagues, so Raiffeisen Bank Czech Republic, who is running according to the local Czech open banking standard with further implementations, further features and improvements. For example, standing orders, new versions of the APIs, bug fixes, etc. So there is still a lot going on. For example, in June, there was new EBA opinion published, which I think all the banks know about. It's really quite, still imposes quite some work on us. For example, we will have to also implement app-to-app redirect, not only normal redirect SCA, but also app-to-app. There are still a lot of discussions regarding the third-party providers wishing to not have to do 90 days reauthorization. Banks saying, sorry, we have to follow the law. So still a lot of discussions going on also within the European Union area. And we are simply keeping the communication alive with the network banks to see what we have to implement also going into 2021. But I can say so the operations are quite smooth. So we are answering to the third-party providers if there are any questions sent to us on the developer portals and basically providing 24/7 support. So everything runs smoothly.
Perfect. Tanya, if I just may mention, it's quite exciting to see a lot of women in this very technical field.
Isn't it? It's great.
Yeah, we don't see that so often. That's
Yes.
really, was that
Thank
purposely?
you for mentioning this.
Yes.
This is so important to mention. I'm so proud to be in this team.
Yeah, fantastic.
Me too.
Martin, the first anniversary of the product, what were your, so to say, milestones this year?
This year, still, I would say, so we are now around this time celebrating first year of official establishment of the team and the product itself. So even though there were activities before that, but the real achievements came this year. So first one is Tatra Banka opening the service live, supported by our platform beginning of the year. Then adding more and more banks from basically 3 markets to the platform. This is something which was running in a stable pace, bank by bank, so on this account aggregation level. And then the highlight towards the end of the year was opening of the Czech service a couple of days ago. So for public usage of the service. So these are the achievements for me. And the path there was for sure not easy. So we have seen that the PSD2 for us was the enabler. Without PSD2 APIs of the banks on the European market, we would not be able to aggregate anything mostly. So when PSD2 opened, we have seen quite a low quality of the APIs which were present on the market. We struggled with the documentation, description, sandboxes were not working. So almost everything we touched was not in the way as we expected. I mean, integrating something which is moving under your hands is not very easy. And but somehow we found out. So we elaborated. Also, we quite heavily communicated with the network banks on these topics. And at the end, we were able to achieve basically coverage of the whole Slovak market with the major players. So we have 7 banks aggregated there. We have 5 banks in Czech Republic. We have aggregated two banks in Romania. We have aggregated 1 bank in Austria, and we continue. So the pace here in the account aggregation is set, and step by step we will be adding to cover all the markets in CE where we have our network banks. So this we will continue doing, I believe. Yeah, so this was 2020 for me.
Perfect. Andrei, before we deep dive into what's next to come in the next year, what about your achievements and let's say big milestones? Relevant, obviously, for the audience listening.
Yes, of course. I think one of the big milestones was definitely that we launched the Premium API Sandbox, where our partners and the network banks can test the first beyond PSD2 APIs focused on identification of the customers and on integration of banking data into ERP and invoicing systems. And I think also a highlight of this year was definitely our Open API Hackathon, the first one that we really organized as RBI together with Tatra Banka, which was really successful, where we had over 90 participants, and especially in this Corona time, where basically the measures of the government were changing, and it was basically 2 weeks before the hackathon, not clear if it will be virtual or physical. So this was still changing. We quite successfully managed to organize a very interesting event where we were able to combine two big topics, open banking and ESG. And we had really, really interesting results, and we are currently also having follow-ups with some of the teams that joined the hackathon. So it was not really a promotion, but really we were able to get some tangible outcomes from the event itself.
Was that an internal hackathon, or was it open for externals as well?
It was open for externals. We had quite international teams, but since it was organized together with Tatra Banka in Slovakia, most of the teams were coming from Slovakia. But since it was virtual, anyone from any country could join.
Can we expect some hackathons in the future as well? Was it a proven instrument? Did it work out well?
Yes. I think we had some discussion, and I can say that we are expecting to organize about 2 hackathons next year together with our network banks, because we think that the results were very good, and also to support the community to products like PSD2 APIs, our consumption platform, and API marketplace. It really helps them to stand out and really have the traction they are looking for.
Catalina, when it comes to community engagement, what kind of formats are you looking into in addition to hackathons? Are there any new formats coming?
I think that first of all, the hackathon definitely proved to be important. One of the teams participating in the hackathon is currently developing something that will be present on the marketplace soon. So definitely proves the entire concept. We are also thinking, obviously, about meetups. These days, as Andrei was saying, it's hard to know whether we will do this virtually or physically. So hopefully a mix of these will be possible in 2021. Definitely participating in online conferences and big ones. For example, Money 2020 proved to be beneficial this year. And in the end, I will just explore everything there is to know, because we are at the beginning with building this community, and I expect that 2021 will be a year where we finally see what works in terms of reaching the community, because there are so many ways right now that we can talk about and risk and I don't know, all kinds of platforms. Honestly, right now, I'm not sure which one will be proven to be the successful one. Definitely hackathons were proven.
Perfect. Tanya, what really occurs to me and stands out to me, when we spoke to Hannes Zizek, with Christian Wolf, with you guys, you seem to be super in line with your messages, with your vision, with your, so to say, mission, what you're trying to do. And we know that from bigger organizations, this is actually the most difficult thing to achieve, to have, so to say, spread message and spread vision among the employees. Now, you've been using the term, we're a tribe, if I remembered correctly. Can you explain how do you achieve this integration of so many and broad hierarchies and people and employees?
So, I mean, it starts from the top, right? So I think the most important thing is that we as the organization have the vision and the mission, and we know where we are heading to. And then if you put this on a tribe level, and this is basically people that you see here, together with the team members that we have behind us, I think that this is simply something that we believe in. So you have to believe in what you do in order to really be aligned, as you said, on this level. And since we believe in what we do, we are very passionate in talking with the other stakeholders in the organization, trying to engage with the community via events like this. And yeah, then you end up with this nice streamlined group of people working together on one thing to be achieved in the future.
Are you guys also, for our community listening now, gate openers into the, so to say, the world of RBI to help, so to say, use the opportunities that a big bank and a partner can offer?
I think we have, RBI in general has a lot of vehicles via which we try to connect with fintechs and other partners. But if you talk about open banking and open APIs, then I would say yes, definitely this tribe is the front runner, if I can say it like that, for the organization internally and also for the external community. So yeah, whoever is listening, no matter what the topic is around open banking, you can approach any of us. We also now, we do have colleagues responsible for open banking in Network Bank. This is also proving success of the group, I would say, entirely. And yeah, anything to add, Gerhard?
Not just maybe what's behind. I mean, these whole tribes that also all the teams are working. They're working according to our agile way of working. Okay. I mean, there's a big adaptive transformation in the bank itself, and we are part of that. We are one of those tribes who are there already kind of transformed in that
early
mode. Early adopters from the beginning, even 3 years ago, in a different setup, which was then taken over in a larger setup. And as you can see, I'm actually in an IT organization. Tanya is sitting actually in a business organization, but we are still in one tribe. And I think that's the power of it, that we have those cross-functional, cross-business, cross-silo organized tribes who actually have then one vision and go, and being adaptive. And as I said, so just how also this model proves, I mean, you cannot imagine how many operational hurdles, for example, the consumption team had this year, which they had to overcome as team. And this proves for me that this agile way of working is the way actually to do that and to be fast and to react to changes in a positive way, tackle them and move on without, huge replannings and stuff like that. And I think especially for Martin, it was a tough year and also for the team, but this is also a tough team. So they're meant to do that.
But I think, I mean, the spontaneous thought, I mean, maybe we could do an event on that topic only because it's so complex actually and so important for so many organizations who struggle with that transformation. And if you guys have some good advice on that, maybe that's a topic for one of the sessions on this digital community building. Sure. Last 5 minutes, so let's look into the future. What's coming next year, especially with the perspective of where could our audience, so to say, find their opportunities to connect with you and then to work together with you? Who wants?
So I can say that next year will be about new products, so new APIs exposed to our external community. Here we are kind of focused on corporate, on SME segment. So yes, of course, you can approach us via the marketplace, as Catalina mentioned. It will be about scaling account aggregation, payment initiation. We still see that there is need for that. And it will be about, as Catalina mentioned, finding out which model works best for the community in order to move towards building the best and biggest ecosystem in CEE. So
that's a beautiful goal. What about you guys on the operative level? What are your milestones? What can the community expect, and where could they maybe help you be faster, help to develop things together?
I can continue then because it's a common goal. So next year I see the collaboration between the two teams intensifying actually. Andrea is now working on more and more products and they will be published on our marketplace. So I'm looking forward to working even closer in the future. Also, Martin's products have a very good potential. And also here there will be a way increased collaboration compared to this year. So this is from a richness of offer. I expect that 2021 will be the year of really expanding our API offer dramatically compared to what we have now. Okay. And yes, I think
If I can take over from here, because it kind of directly builds on what I would say. So exactly. So the farther we go, the more we want to shift the focus on the premium APIs beyond regulatory. We already this year did a lot of internal discussions. What could be the use cases? Building up some draft architecture, proving what would really be viable, what not, how much effort it would take, etc. So we are already in the process of building first draft, basically, of the premium API. We want to build on this in the future, in the next year. So for sure, communicating with various business departments, with corporates, SMEs, as Tanya mentioned, defining what really is the business use case we want to follow, building it, deploying on marketplace, and basically really creating the community supporting with the premium APIs.
Martin and Andre, are you allowed to talk about those products that Catalina mentioned? Martin, what are your milestones for next year?
I would be very happy if we make it to marketplace. It would be great. And I believe nothing stops us from doing that. So my goals and our product goals, I think from business perspective are quite clear. So we want to initiate payment in Slovakia. We want to start aggregating rest of the markets within EU where our network banks are located. And so this is Croatia, Hungary, Bulgaria. Yes, so we had quite a heavy learning this year on how to do this, how to develop products which are group oriented, which are actually platforms and not the backend. So we already have many of inputs for how to improve our work, how to maybe make things smarter, how to maybe be more efficient, how to deliver in a better way. So we have many inputs from 360 degrees, also our own observations, and we just need to implement it. Looking forward for that.
Perfect. Tanya, who actually decides which products make it to the marketplace or not?
Community and the users.
Okay. Martin, all the best. I hope to see your products then there. Andrei, what are your big milestones?
Yes, we definitely plan to publish the product or the solution that came from the hackathon. So it will be a sandbox or a premium API focused on ESG. And definitely next year, as I mentioned, 2 hackathons, which we will announce probably beginning of next year, where they will take place. If it will be, of course, virtual or physically, we'll see. But we are looking forward to meet the community, meet developers there, and try to figure out and ideate new solutions that we can bring to our customers.
So stay tuned. We will communicate, obviously, all those activities that are going to be there. Is this, so to say, do you have any secrets still that you're keeping from us? Can we expect something beyond what we discussed?
Yes, of course. You just need to stay tuned.
Then we'll keep you posted. Stay tuned. This was the RBI API team. Very, very cool team, actually. Very broad. We just got to know each other. I enjoyed the discussion a lot. And respect for all the work that you're doing. Really, really exciting times. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Catalina, stay with me. We have now a keynote, RBI API Marketplace, 13 Reasons Why. Now, Catalina will guide us through this keynote, and then we have a few minutes for a Q&A, and in between we have another video for you, but let's start with the Q&A. Catalina, the stage is yours. I can hear that Catalina left the stage. We'll just wait for a second to bring her back. Do you know the presentation, Tanya, already that she prepared for us?
Not by heart, but we can talk about the marketplace anytime.
Is it, because I found it was quite an interesting one, 13 Reasons Why. Is it a promo presentation that you guys have for outside, or is it a premiere?
This is premiere.
Is it premiere?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay. Catalina, I can hear that you're back.
Being disconnected. Yes, I thought I had to connect to a different link, so apologies for that. I think the distance virtual events pose sometimes these risks.
No worries, all good. We're ready for you as soon as you're ready.
Yes. So greetings. We've met before, so no more introduction. I'm here to introduce more in detail the new RBI API marketplace. As we were speaking earlier, we talk about marketplace a lot, and I hear this word obviously tens of times every day. But essentially, what does it mean, a marketplace? And a marketplace is, after all, and very simply put, a platform that connects producers to consumers. And it also provides the tools and the flows to make this connection happen. An API marketplace does exactly this for APIs. It connects the API providers, the API producers in our RBI group, in this case, the different entities that we have under the RBI group brand, to API consumers. And API consumers are a totally new type of bank partners. Obviously, this is not something new for technology companies. And however, this kind of connection enables a totally new business model for the banks. These are partnerships that are based on data sharing via APIs. And since we were talking earlier about how united we are in our vision, I really believe, and we all believe, that this ultimately contributes to the overall vision of RBI offering superior customer experience. We really expect that API-based partners will address our common customer bases with cool ideas and solutions that maybe we may not necessarily be able to provide just by working alone by ourselves. So as I was saying earlier, it's all about unleashing the power of the community. And by uniting our forces with partners across our 13 reasons why, which are the 13 CE markets that we are not present in, we are absolutely certain that all the almost 70 million customers who honor us with their trust will benefit from this extended partnership ecosystem. And I was saying, it's another Lego brick in the whole mechanism that supports our partnership ecosystem. And yes, as Andrea was also saying earlier, and other colleagues were saying, obviously this all started with PSD2 APIs. Beyond regulations, though, there is so much more potential that can be unleashed by unlocking new sets of data. And we have various teams within head office and our 13 other markets already developing the so-called premium APIs. I guess our previous panel discussion already addressed some of the issues that I'm now addressing in this keynote speech, but it only confirms how well harmonized we are in our scope and in our messages. When we say premium APIs, we basically say APIs that are non-regulatory. Now, to empower this ecosystem, we really needed the platform to connect the providers to the API consumers, and this is the RBI API marketplace. Now, we understood from the very beginning that this new type of partners, the developers from fintechs and other corporates, expect the following things to happen. First of all, to have a single point of access, a single shop, so to say, where they can quickly, easily find exactly the APIs that they need. The other thing is that they need is to quickly understand the scope and details of an API. And the third one is to be able to initiate API calls as soon as possible. Now, looking inwards towards our API providers in the RBI group, we also recognize that we need to make our marketplace what I like to call API provider agnostic. It means that it has to be built in a way that all our potential API providers in the RBI group can use the marketplace to publish their APIs without being, for example, obliged to use a certain API management platform. Now, for the first time in RBI group, the new marketplace allows sandbox access to multiple API providers with just one sign-up needed. This was not possible until we came up with this new solution. We have now integrated in the following providers: Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, Hungary, and we plan to gradually add more and more API providers to our marketplace. Also, a very important scope that was mentioned in the earlier panel was to have the marketplace help us achieve the reusability and standardization goals that we have within RBI group. We came to know that we have great knowledge scattered across our group. We really believe that increased internal reusability will help us move much faster and develop faster solutions for our colleagues in the network banks and business lines. You met Sudeep earlier. They have really interesting projects in retail, and we are here to support this. And the marketplace will also help support this scope. What else? Since, yes, Gerhard was mentioning the fact that we develop based on agile methods. And yes, this helps us develop new features, and new APIs will be released very often. So I really encourage everybody to visit api.rbinternational.com, scroll down, sign up for our newsletter, and we really promise no spam. We're a bank, we're serious, just good news whenever something cool pops up on our marketplace. For 2021, we plan to further focus on expanding our API offer. We want to integrate as many of the 13 reasons why possible, and also to release multiple, I would say, goodies for the developers in our Open API community. Without much further ado, I would invite you to watch our presentation movie, and then I'm really curious for feedback, questions, and yes, let's involve the community. Thank you very much.
In today's business world, being digital is no longer enough. Data is everywhere. All kinds of data. Data which could be the missing link for your next masterpiece. To achieve something extraordinary, you need to be connected. The whole world's economy is intertwined. Being connected means being able to access the data of other market players, share the customer base with one another, and thrive on each other's services. But how to connect? This is where APIs come into play. Application programming interfaces are the means to connect. With just a one-time integration, APIs allow for secure and real-time data sharing. However, finding the right API and becoming connected can be tedious, requiring endless registrations for accessing multiple data platforms from different players in the market. RBI Group runs numerous APIs providing valuable data from 13 Central Eastern European countries and over 16 million customers. By consuming and combining valuable data from the various APIs we provide, you can enrich your existing services and enable new digital services with RBI on your side. But how can you connect to RBI Group and avoid the hurdle of accessing individual data portals of each bank in different countries? We call it the RBI API Marketplace. Featuring multiple data portals of RBI Group, the RBI API Marketplace serves as a single point of access and a basis for our joint value co-creation. Once you are registered, you get immediate access to our sandboxes, where you can test your solutions in a safe experimental environment. Join us and become a part of a fast-growing ecosystem in CEE. Register to our API Marketplace, sign up to our newsletter, and stay up to date with the latest innovations from RBI. RBI API Marketplace. Let's innovate together. Register now.
Great. Thank you for this video. Thank you for the presentation, Catalina. A lot of congratulations, so to say, in the chat. Kudos to all the teams and their great achievements. Congratulations on the fantastic teamwork. And then Miroslav is proud to be a part of API team. Exciting journey for all of you guys. Maybe just one question for you, Catalina. Do you have any, let's say, advice on what's most crucial, most important for somebody building up product to be able to, so to say, come to your marketplace, to be placed on the marketplace?
Well, I would say for now, the most important piece of information is address us. We are now working on a set of rules and guidelines for the API providers. And yes, I would be really, really interested to already involve the API producers, because a community-built exercise is always better than something that we just devise from head office and impose on people. That's my main learning. I also come from one of the network banks, and I think that the best is to collaborate, not impose.
From the products placed on the marketplace, what do you think is the success factor of those products? Any learnings on that?
Yes, good documentation, definitely. So easy to understand, easy to read by the developers, and yeah, that's the clear explanation of the scope. So what developers say is that they want to understand the scope of an API quickly, and then to be really easy to connect to it and to start to make calls in, somebody said less than 30 minutes, but I'm proud to say that they can do it in less than 5 minutes on our marketplace. So I guess that, yeah.
Okay, I think Jörg Bartosek has a similar question. Can you give us some KPIs on the platform, customers, available APIs, and so on and so forth?
I cannot disclose now the number of connected users. We have integrated the PSD2 APIs from 4 countries, so I would say 16 bundles of APIs already integrated in sandbox environments and adding more and more every week.
Okay, and as you mentioned, obviously a lot of plans for next year. Catalina, yes. Thank you very much for these insights. Thank you very much for joining us before in the session with your colleagues, and all the best.
Thank you very much for having me here. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye. Thank you, Jörg, also for your questions and for every other question as well in the chat. We're moving on to the keynote of Tatra Bank. Tatra Banka earned first 20,000 euros for open banking, and we have the CIO of Tatra Banka Slovakia with us, Martin Kubik. We have a technical issue, just a second, give us 1 minute and we'll fix it and continue with our discussion. I'm waiting for the signal of our team to bring us back on stage. Martin Kubik was already with us, CIO of Tatra Banka Slovakia. We're going to get him back in any second and continue the discussion. It's going to be an interesting and very exciting keynote, and we have 360-degree camera, so to say, in Slovakia. You'll see the colleagues sitting on the same table. I saw them already prepared to, so to say, pitch and explain what they're doing there. It's quite an exciting bank, actually, very innovative, very open for collaborations with startups, very open for, so to say, working together with them. The hackathon was also, so to say, driven by Tatra Banka. I think we're back on stage. I hope that Martin is with me. Martin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now, but you were frozen for a while. So if you gave us any instruction, we were not able to listen.
Yes, we had a short technical issue, but we fixed it already. So now I may introduce Martin Kubik, CIO of Tatra Banka Slovakia, on stage. Martin, thank you for taking time for coming live into this session. Can I ask you for some opening words for the keynote of Tatra Banka?
Yeah, thank you very much. I have the privilege actually to give few words before the team of Tatra Banka will present the concrete implementation where I'm very proud of, and this is the first step in actually opening towards the world with belief that we can earn the money on it. But before, I would like to give a short, not story, but maybe the reasoning why we believe it makes sense and why we are investing the energy. Probably it was mentioned and you hear it many times, but I will repeat it. We all know what is the situation actually of the banking industry at the moment, and I'm not talking about COVID, that interest rates are really going down in European countries. For example, in Slovakia, they almost touch the ground, the margins and fees as well. At least we cannot dream to move them up because of regulators, which are getting to be stronger and stronger towards financial industry. And what we are perceiving is also new competition, which is coming into our world and which is constantly eating our piece of pie of the business. Okay, so we can be observing this and we can be doing something proactive against this trend. So we agree that yeah, we have to do something proactive, but we probably cannot stay only within the area and within the borders we used to stay in a couple of years and historically where the banking was. So we agree that strategically we have to go also beyond banking. So go outside of our borders where we used to operate, and we have to try to make some money in it and bring some nice and interesting services for our customers. How to do it? You can do it 1,000 ways, but one of them is also that we will be not scouting and trying to define our ideas only by ourselves, but we would open to the world, to RBI, but also to all other companies, and we will use Open API and open banking as not as something what is endangering us, but we try to use it as an opportunity. And this is what we did, and this is how we are looking at this, that this really can help us to earn money and to make a new market and increase our revenues long term. So we did some concrete steps. First concrete step was that we really bring it to our strategy. Usually in our strategy, we had goals for the segments like retail, middle market, corporate, and so on. And since this year, for next 5 years, we for the first time put there something what is called new sources of revenue. So new sources of revenue is considered to be a new segment, which is just being born, and we gave it a concrete business goal. How many customers we would like to get via these new sources of revenue stream, or how much money or how big gross income we would like to get into our bank. Output out of the initiative, because we haven't started yesterday, we have started a few months ago, and actually we have started with the regulations coming from PSD2. Output is that actually in November, we launched first premium API service based on PSD2 license. So this is also evidence that we were observing and watching this topic not only as a threat, but also as an opportunity. The service is now live. We already booked small portion of revenue. Really, the guys will tell you how much, but we were celebrating that small portion of revenue because this was coming from something new. And we believe this is a first brick of a huge cathedral we just started to build. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to welcome my colleagues. And now I would like to hand over to them because what they show you will be a real demo, a real functionality. Let's not call it as a demo, because this is something what is functioning and where we are connected to third-party softwares. And now also the third parties can think about new products, new revenues, new business streams, but we are getting a piece of it. And that's the logic, and that's the logic in it. So I will hand over, guys, please, Eric, go on and present our first tangible output that we achieve in this stream. At least there are some questions towards me, but probably we will answer them later on.
Maybe we can answer them later on. Thank you for taking time for these insights. Really exciting times also for me. I'm actually really excited with and for you. And I'd like to invite on stage Eric, Oliver, and Milan. Eric Todt, Open Banking Lead at Tatra Banka Slovakia. Then we have Oliver Kamensky, Developer, Community Manager, and Milan Zmenko, ADV Europe. Join us on stage. You can also share your screen, your presentation. We'll put it all together. All three guys are in the same room. 360-degree camera is filming you, so that so to say we have one output for our so to say experts here. Eric, may I hand over to you? Please start your presentation.
Yes. Hi everyone. Greetings from Bratislava. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope you can see the presentation, and then we can start, right?
Yes, we see, Eric. Go ahead.
Thank you. So thanks to Martin as well for all the kind words. And basically, Martin already suggested what we want to present to you. This is a service which we recently launched. It's our first premium API service. And basically, what this service is doing, it's a single API that provides AISP connectivity for 5 different Slovak banks. Basically, what we are doing is using our PSD2 license to provide the PSD2 compliant process for connecting the user to their bank and then connecting their account to third-party applications. And the benefit for the partners that use this service is that they do not need to have their own PSD2 license. We are responsible for providing the PSD2 compliant process. What is even more interesting about this solution is that it's not just a service available for Tatra Banka customers. It is also available for non-Tatra Banka clients. So you don't have to have anything, any accounts in Tatra Banka. You can be the customers of our competitors, and you can still use this service. Partners can use this service to connect their users to their accounts. And from the monetization perspective, partners pay monthly fee to Tatra Banka for using this service, and the fee is based on the number of connected accounts through this service. So this is the service which we launched in November. It is live. We have 5 banks connected through this API. Our ambition is to connect 3 more banks by end of this year. And I mentioned there that this service will be available for non-clients, but we are still in the final stages of development, and this functionality will be ready and available by January 2021. So this is the service which we introduced, and there can be multiple use cases which you can pursue using such a functionality. We have picked one of them, which we are now working on, and that is invoice reconciliation. Basically, we have done a number of studies and research with our SME customers, particularly, where we have asked them what challenges they are faced with. And one of the things which came up is that their bank is not able, they are not able to integrate their bank and banking products with their invoicing and accounting software, which means that when the SMEs issue invoices and want to find out if that invoice has been paid or not, they have to switch between the banking applications where they see the transactions and invoicing applications where they manage their invoices, and they have to manually check which invoice has been paid or not. We have asked our customers whether they would be willing to connect their accounts with their invoicing or accounting application if it helped them with this invoice reconciliation, and surely 84% of the customers said that they would be willing to do that, and 43% of them also said that they would be willing to pay for such a service. So we have came up with the service, the enabler in form of our premium API service, and then we needed to find a partner, an invoicing application, which would be willing to integrate it and provide such a functionality to our customers. And I am very glad that we were able to find such a partner and who already integrated this solution into their application. And I have here with us Mr. Zmeko from company Trovi, who will explain, who will introduce their application and how they integrated Premium API.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here with all of you. My name is Milan Zmeko, as been said, from Trovi. First of all, I would say that we are very happy about this collaboration with Tatra Banka, and we are happy to be the pioneers in the open banking world together with Tatra Banka. So Trovi is basically a one-stop shop platform for your business or for your company. It's dedicated to SMEs, very small enterprises, and freelancers as well. And it's a really integrated application, putting everything all in together into one application. So what you can expect from Trovi is everything you have in your invoicing application. So some dashboards, reporting, cash flow predictions, invoicing expenses, and more. And what's our core, it's much more different from other invoicing applications, is that we are providing services as well. Particularly, we are speaking about services such as accounting, payroll, legal services, tax advisory, and so on. So those are basically the basic services that every company, every entrepreneur needs. What's also different is that we are covering some quality control and some responsibility. So if anything goes wrong with the service you ordered, we are here to cover your losses or the problems. So everything is online, simple, transparent, and available all the time, basically. All the services and tools. And what Eric was talking about, we are happy to be the first one to integrate such an open banking solution. Open banking is directly integrated into Trovi right now. So that means, and you will see it in a live demo in a while, that you can see all your accounts directly in the Trovi application, where is all your business administration. You can see account balances, you can see account transactions, and you can work with that. And what's most important, that you can pair those transactions and payments with your documents, such as invoices, expenses, and so on. So it saves you a ton of time, basically money you would pay for the account and so on. We are also very happy to be working with Tatra Banka for the future, and I'm sure that there is much more to come in the open banking world to integrate also for us. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go then live to the demo, and we have my colleague Oliver, who will show you how this actually works.
Hello everyone. So let's proceed to the live demonstration from the SME customer perspective. So right now you are able to see the dashboard of the Trovi application, where I logged in as a SME client, and I can see some basic information about my company, my revenues, expenses, but I can also check the invoices which were issued or received. And we can check this one because we invoiced this invoice to our customer testing facilities, and we can see that we are still waiting for the payment to come. Trovi informed us that they integrated a brand new feature, and we are able to connect the different bank accounts. We can see that it is the product or service of Tatra Banka, and we are able to connect those 5 banks on the Slovak market. So let's try it, and let's connect account from some other bank. Now we logged in with Tatra Banka credentials, and we are able to see possibility to connect Tatra Banka accounts of our company. But we are not only able to do that, but we want to connect other banks. So that is why I have to click on the button Add Account, and we can see other banks which are offered to us. And we would like to connect Slovenská sporiteľňa account, which is Erste Group bank, and we have to check the contract, at least to open it, and then we can proceed to the redirect to Slovenská sporiteľňa, where we have to authorize the connection between Trovi application and Slovenská sporiteľňa. Now we are being redirected to the Slovenská sporiteľňa, and we have to use the credentials of Slovenská sporiteľňa online banking. At this moment, we can pick whichever account we have in Slovenská sporiteľňa, but we want to connect the first one because that is the business account of our entity. So we are confirming the choice, and right now we are redirected back to the Tatra Banka environment, where we can choose what accounts should be connected to the Trovi application. We can see that right now there are not only Tatra Banka accounts, specifically one, but there is also account from Slovenská sporiteľňa, and we can choose both of them because we are getting the payments from our customers to both of those accounts. We have to confirm the selection, and after seeing what accounts will be added, we are redirected again to the Trovi application, and let's see if the authorization was successful. So we got the information that everything went smoothly. And right now in the open banking functionality, we are able to see the account and the transactions which were made on it, as well as other accounts. So this one is from Tatra Banka, and the second one is from Slovenská sporiteľňa. And Trovi has already done some functionality or some analysis on this transaction, because you can see the icon that it is connected to some invoice which was issued by us. So let's check it. And we can see the same invoice as before, but it is already marked as paid. So we found out this information via APIs and thanks to the connection between Trovi and Tatra Banka. We can manage those added accounts in the open banking feature. We can deactivate the feature, or we can even add other accounts if we want to. So that is everything from the live demo. And yeah, we were really happy that we had an opportunity to present it to you, and let's find out if you have some questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't have questions here in the chat, but maybe let's touch upon the monetization aspect of it. Martin was saying it already, that you were celebrating a lot, making first revenues out of these projects. Could you give us some insights, and also obviously tell us what kind of drinks did you drink when you were celebrating it?
Yes, well, Martin is correct. Yeah, so there was a small revenue which we already booked for November. It's in tens of euros, so nothing significant, but it's a milestone for us anyway. Hopefully this will grow and grow. And I don't want to share more details, but there was a lot of champagne. Yeah, there was.
Very good. I think we have one question from Olena. Great app. Does the SME customer can receive the invoice as well, not only issue, and pay by 1 or 2 clicks?
Yeah, sure. Invoices you can issue or you can receive them. So basically those are the expenses, and payment pairing works on both of them. So either you issue an invoice, it will be automatically paired and basically marked as paid in the application, and expense as well. So if you pay your invoice for leasing, for instance, you will see it in Trovi that it's already been paid, and you won't see it in the dashboard that it's something you haven't paid yet, or maybe it's overdue or something.
Mm-hmm. What are next steps here, and where do you maybe see the market potential, just to give us some idea, rough idea, unless it's obviously confidential?
Yes. So as I mentioned, the next steps for us are bringing more banks, connectivity to the service. So 3 more banks by end of the year, and in January we want to release the service for non-clients as well. So that would be a big step. And afterwards, we have a roadmap where we want also enable payments functionality in the future. So that would be something which we would be looking for in the future, definitely.
Okay. Then we have another question here. This assume this service is based on a revenue share model between Tatra Banka and Trovi. Is that the case?
Yes, but I want to stress here that we charge partners for using this service a particular fee, based on number of accounts which they have connected. But we also give free hands to the partners on how they want to monetize this functionality. They can either offer it for free to their customers, as Trovi is doing right now, in order to maybe boost acquisition, or you can use it the same as Tatra Banka to provide it as an extra feature to your customers, where you charge them fee for using the service. And this is totally up to the partners how they decide how they want to use this service.
Okay, great, fantastic. Let me just ask our team: is Martin maybe still with us? Yes, Martin.
Yes, I am.
I would have one question for you, because I think it's quite amazing what you guys are doing. And on the management level, you mentioned before in your statement, you integrated these new business goals into your strategy. Now, I'd be curious, did you integrate it also into the target agreements of management?
Yes. I don't know if you know how the strategy in network banks is running, but usually we've got something what is called a roadmap, and there are concrete business goals for particular parts of the bank, even for the business or for the supporting areas. What is good, and I like it very much, that we are not looking for this topic as a support, and we place it among actually the business areas. So it is really, as a segment, it is having business goals for number of clients acquired, and of course, some of the people will have it in their goals and will be reporting this on a banking level on a quarterly basis. So this is really happening. I have to say that I'm also a bit of excited, let's put it this way, because we celebrated first a few euros, but the nominal value that is written there as a goal, I have to say, is much, much higher. So we have to speed up, because end of the year 2021 is just knocking the door. No, I'm joking. But you ask one question to Eric, I will just enlarge it. One monetizing potential is also connected to acquisition. Like if you've got a good partner and we've got the bank, so we can help each other. So we've got some customers that can be interesting for Trovi, for example, or Trovi or some other partners are having customers that can be interesting for us. And we don't have them, or we have them and we can cross-sell. That's one nice area of potential monetization. And second one, that having this, we can a bit export our banking products closer to the clients. You can imagine that if the client is dealing with his invoices in his accounting application and there is a button, refinance this invoice. So this is banking product, but the customer doesn't need to collect the documents and bring it to us, physically or digitally, doesn't matter, but we can bring it to him and we can be paid premium, or we can actually enlarge the volume of these sold products.
Fantastic times ahead, really. We have another question from Raphael Murray. Does RBI currently require a fee for the access? Whoever wants to take it. Maybe Eric from your team. I think it's referring to the demo.
If we are referring to, it's a paid service.
Or to API Marketplace, I guess. Yes.
Well, I don't think there is no fee for registering on our developer portal. Yeah? Anybody can come in register, find the documentation for the service. There is even a sandbox environment, so you can test it, run it, feel for it, and when you are ready, you can ask for switching to the productions. At that point, we need to sign an agreement with the partner, and as part of the agreement, we also provide certain trial period where you can use the service for free, and afterwards we start charging fees for using the service.
Thanks for the explanation. Great. One extra question from Rona Fernandez. Great demo of a fantastic service. Congratulations. How long did it take you from the SME customer survey to going live with the open banking application? Thank you.
Yeah. So I would say it took us 6 to 8 months, I would guess, that, coming really from even starting from the idea to actual implementation. Yeah. So we spent a lot of time analyzing the solutions, talking to the customers, doing the customer survey, building the business case, even talking to the regulators on how this solution can be implemented. So I would say it's 50-50, development and getting ready, analyzing it, preparing the cases, and building the prototypes. Yeah, that's it. This is how, if I remember correctly, this is what happened.
Haris, may I add something?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I very much like the numbers and performance management, and I've got I'm measuring the time to delivery, and it's very important for me in IT. In this perspective, I perceive it a bit differently, because we've been building a baseline for the future ecosystem. So there were many hiccups and many obstacles at the beginning. We are very happy that actually a group solution is somehow allow us to do it, because we are connecting to those banks via Galileo service. And we all experience that it is not always about technical capability to connect to the other banks. The banks not usually like to let you be connected. So yeah, you don't have the valid certificate, the methodology was wrong, we are changing the release, you have to connect, and so on. So they were usually like, connect one bank. At the beginning it was like 4 months, but to be honest, 1 month it was technical work, and 3 months it was this dancing back and forth, up and down. And yeah, so we've been working on the whole ecosystem with regulatory stuff, and also this premium stuff, I would say for 1.5 years. But I strongly believe that once it is built, and I've got the feeling at the moment, we can connect the new product or the new partner quite easily. And it can be counted in weeks. But before, it was heavyweight exercise.
Okay.
I have to be fair.
Thank you for these very, very open insights. We have 2 more questions. Whoever feels being able to answer them. What is your experience with the availability and performance of the PSD2 APIs on the other 5 banks that you have connected? I think that might have been a question from a previous group. But Martin, do you have any insights on that?
Well, it quite differs, and it's specific for every bank which is connected. And I don't want to be specific, but some banks are performing quite good, and the responses are coming in a few seconds or hundreds of milliseconds. But there are also some issues with some banks, some of those, and the responses are taking even more than 10 seconds or 15 seconds. So you can imagine that this customer journey, it is quite difficult, because you have to authorize, let's say, twice something, and if there is a delay of 10 or 15 seconds, you can be quite annoyed as a customer. So yeah, the performance isn't the same for all of those banks, and I believe it might be better, but it's really like every bank has its own issues.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to add one point, because this is actually what is the advantage of this solution? Because if you were to get your own PSD2 license, and you would have to by yourself connect to each and every one of those banks. Each bank has a slightly different implementation, different standard. As Oliver mentioned, some APIs are working better, some are worse, and this is the benefit of this solution, that you have a one single API, harmonized data through which you get access to all the banks. So this is, I think, the big benefit for all the partners, and maybe Mr. Zmeko can add more.
From our point of view, so far we didn't see like kind of performance problems with documents, invoicing, paying, and so on. Everything was running quite quickly, I have to say, from our point of view. And as Eric was saying, yes, that's right. Basically, we have now one pipe how we can approach many different banks, and more for the future. So also cost-wise, the implementation and also operation of such a solution for us is very good. And we didn't have to get PSD2 license. We didn't have to pay for it. We didn't had to fill the regulatory requirements and so on. So from our point of view, we have now the framework, let's say, and we have many banks. Of course, we are looking for future services, as been said from guys from Tatra Banka. So from our point of view, it's very effective.
Perfect. Maybe a final question from Miloslava. Thank you also for this question. Very interesting. What are your future plans to promote the services and the expansion of the services offered? Which are the main target groups, and how would you plan to attract them jointly with Trovi?
Yes, so I will try to answer that one. So basically, our main target groups currently are SMEs and even large corporate companies. For the use case we've just shown, to integrate your solution with your invoicing application or even your accounting, to be able to automate some of the services such as reconciliation or cash flow prediction and other processes which you go through as part of your accounting. Sorry, what was the rest of the question?
How are your future plans to promote the services and the expansion of the services offered?
Yeah, so basically we will definitely use our own distribution network, our own digital channels to promote this solution, but then we also rely on the partners to promote this functionality to their customers, to spread the know-how about the solution and drive the usage through them mainly. Yeah, so this is what we are looking for.
Yeah. And I would add very quickly, briefly. We also included open banking and a free trial of open banking for our customers in December campaigns. So we are looking forward to join the powers. Basically, with Tatra Banka, they will have some activities marketing-wise. We will have them too. So together, I think that we can build a customer base for this kind of service.
And basically, what we want to build on our side is some kind of a, let's say, marketplace where our customers can find third-party solutions such as Trovi application, which can be connected with Tatra Banka services and products and bring additional value to the customers. And we want to build a portfolio of such applications and products, and through that attract more customers to Tatra Banka.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much for all those insights. Thank you, Martin, for staying with us all the way to the end of the panel. Thank you, Eric, Oliver, and Milan, for all those insights, for a great demo. I think the community is quite excited about your product. Also, a lot of questions to you. And thank you, dear audience, for being with us. This was the RBI Open API Day 2020. Very exciting event. Last time we had the blockchain night, today API. super, super exciting things going on in RBI. I hope you enjoyed the insights. Thank you for all the participants, all the speakers, and enjoy your day. And we'll see you next year with next events from RBI. Thank you for being with us, and goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.